No, speak up.
Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and that will promote the interests of our people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om al ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelela ilezwe letu na bantu balo. Umusile ukulungu kwepondo letu. Kosi sikelela i Afrika, tina abantwana bayo, kokela inkokeli zayo, yeniki ukrolo i Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. Please be seated. Order, honourable members. Before we proceed, I would like to remind members of some of the logistical arrangements. As has been our practice to date, honourable members will participate in the sitting of the House, both from here in the chamber with the presiding officer and table staff present, and as well as members will also join virtually. The honourable members experiencing challenges in connecting to the sitting are requested to contact the WCPP ICT colleagues who will assist to resolve their connectivity. The quorum requirements for the sitting of the House are provided for in the Constitution and the standing rules, and unless there is an indication of unanimous concurrence, voting will be confined to members present in the House and on the hybrid system who are entitled to cast their votes as per the ATC issued on the 11th of August 2020. Members present in the chamber and via Microsoft Teams have all the privileges and immunities imparted by law. Members who are considered out of order by the presiding officer will have their microphones muted and called to order. The attendance of members have been recorded by the Sergeant at Arms. In instances where these directives do not cover a particular eventuality, the standing rules must apply. And in instances where these rules cannot be applied, the ruling by the presiding officer is final. Members, all microphones have been muted. However, for those honourable members participating in the sitting of the House via Microsoft Teams, you are requested to use the raise hand functionality of the system when you desire to raise a point of order, and I will recognise you. When an honourable member in the chamber wishes to raise a point of order, such an honourable member may address the presiding officer as expected, but must mute their microphones when they have completed speaking. Honourable members participating in the sitting of the House via Microsoft Teams are requested not to sign into Microsoft Teams on more than one device. The media have also been granted access to the MS Teams meeting as guests of WCPP. However, I would like to remind the members of the press that they may not use the chat room or speak or activate their cameras while the sitting is in progress. If an individual who is not a member of this House activates their microphone and video camera, such an individual will be exited from the sitting immediately. Honourable members, for the sitting, language translation services are available in the chamber as usual and on Microsoft Teams via the respective channels. I wish to remind members that no interjections are permitted during these hybrid sittings, and to this end, I would like to draw your attention to Rule 40 of our standing rules. Honourable members, before I recognise the Chief Whip, I would just like to, for the record, in our last sitting, have made a ruling, and just for the record, I'm going to read the ruling again to apply it. Sorry, there's an echo. The echo is gone. So during the debate on the 1st of June 2023, the Honourable Minister of Infrastructure made utterances in relation to the official opposition, whereupon a point of order was raised by the Deputy Chief Whip of the official opposition, inquiring whether it was parliamentary to refer to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition as a zombie. I inquired from the Minister whether he referred to any member of this House in those terms, upon which he responded that he said that, and I quote, "The NC in the House is zombies." I undertook to consult Hansard and revert to the House once I have had an opportunity to study the transcript. Having now had the opportunity to study the Hansard transcript, as undertaken, I ascertained that the Honourable Minister said the following, and I quote, "All the ideas are zombie-orientated with a zombie opposition leader in the House who has no backbone," close quote. I find the reference to the leader of the opposition as a zombie opposition leader in the House both offensive and unbecoming, and therefore unparliamentary, and hereby request the Honourable Minister to withdraw the offending words. I so rule. Honourable Minister Simmers.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I take note of your ruling and I do respect it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Is that a withdrawal?
Honourable Speaker, I take note of your judgment and I do accept it. So by virtue, I do withdraw what I said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I now recognise the Honourable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, I move in terms of Rule 120 that the subject for discussion in the name of the Honourable Murray receive precedence. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Members. Honourable Dagmar, I will recognise you now. I need to put the question to the House. Are there any objections to the motion being moved?
Yes.
Honourable, is that an objection?
Objection that it gets priority. Is that what she asked for?
Yes, the programming authority has agreed that it is taking precedent. So I put the motion to the House from concurrence.
Okay, now then I withdraw my objection.
Thank you very much. Motion then for the debate will take precedent. Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker. Just on a point of order, I would like to refer to Section 144 of the rules. Speaker, you would be aware that as Leader of Opposition, I wrote to you yesterday requesting that this House, as a matter of urgent public importance, debates the taxi crisis. I received your letter today indicating that you had not acceded to the request. What guidance I seek in terms of this point of order is that you would also be aware, Speaker, that since 2009, not a single request for a debate, either as a matter of public importance or a matter of urgent public importance, has been agreed to by you. And your letter this morning basically also confirms that up to now, although there was another speaker at the time, the opposition has never once in this sixth administration been granted the right to debate either a matter of urgent public importance in terms of 144 or a matter of public importance. I would like to ask your advice, Speaker. What does it stand for the opposition to do, given that even you would remember when Al-Jamaa moved a debate to discuss the Palestinian situation, which had reached a boiling point, that was also refused. So, what advice would you give to us as the leader of the opposition and the opposition generally? How do we at least be able? Can we at least be able to have these rules honored? Because why are the rules there if not on a single occasion have we been granted this right? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Dugmore. Honourable Dugmore, firstly, I allowed you a point of order on the proceedings. I have written to you, just for the record, Honourable members, I have written to the Leader of the Opposition, where I indicated that the difference between public importance and urgent public importance and the difference as per the rule. And as per my advice in the letter to the Leader of the Opposition, as per Rule 143, I have set out what the opposition or the Leader of the Opposition can do within the rules. So I have done so. Honourable members, with that being said, I now recognise the Honourable Minister, Minister Wenger. Honourable Dugmore, is that a point of order?
Yeah, if I could just address you on your ruling. Your letter to me indicates that you will consult with the member of the executive about whether this matter can be debated as a matter of public importance. Surely this House is independent and doesn't require you to discuss a matter with the executive, which is a matter for the attention of the House.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to go into the merits of my letter, Honourable Dugmore. I have said that in consultation with the member of the executive, that for availability, I have also indicated, as per the letter, and I'm going into the merits now, which I don't want to, is that the Rule 143 has been explained to the Leader of the Opposition, and a process to follow was also explained. With that being said, I now recognise the Honourable Minister, Minister Wenger.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and through you to the Honourable Murray. Thank you for sponsoring this very important debate on the Western Cape's bold new economic growth plan called Growth for Jobs. As I stand here today, no one can deny that our country's economy is teetering on the edge, with millions of people out of work or having given up looking for work. The reality is that for far too long, South Africa has suffered the consequences of disastrous policy choices by the ANC national government. We have suffered decades of blatant neglect, mismanagement, rampant corruption, and self-service that has stolen the promise of a better tomorrow from millions and condemned too many to a life of hopelessness and poverty. There is no area of the economy, from energy to logistics, and now even foreign policy, that seems to be spared from the ANC's mismanagement. With the virtually unlimited potential of this amazing country and her people, it should not be this way. It does not have to be this way. Here in the Western Cape, we refuse to sit back and do nothing. And so we have developed a strategy to dramatically lift the provincial growth rate, and to the extent that economic growth continues to fail in South Africa at large, to decouple this province's growth trajectory from that of the rest of the country. We want breakout economic growth. And today, the essence of what we are here to debate is the Western Cape Government's roadmap, our economic action plan that will show what is possible when a government gets the foundations for economic growth right, and when a government works with and enables the private sector, which includes the formal, informal, and township-based businesses. The Growth for Jobs strategy, or G4J, is based on the very best data available, countless hours of research, collaborations, calculations, modeling, and an immense depth of experience. What sets G4J apart is that it has been worked on with the private sector, because our goal is to enable and to grow the private sector. To put it simply, it's the private sector that creates jobs, and it is our job as government to provide the foundations for economic growth so that businesses, big and small, can get on with growing their businesses and creating both economic growth and jobs. Our plan also takes a much longer view, going all the way up to 2035, and our plan of action involves the whole of government. G4J sets out a comprehensive, challenging, and ambitious goal for the Western Cape of becoming a R1 trillion inclusive economy and growing at between 4 and 6% in real terms per annum by 2035. It is inspired by a vision of achieving an economy that is sustainable, diverse, inclusive, and thriving, which generates confidence, hope, and prosperity for all. It is also a strategy that clarifies how we grow our economy is just as important as the growth itself. Because if we do not get the foundations for growth right, we will not be able to achieve higher growth rates, nor will we be able to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs that we need to pull more people out of poverty. Which is why G4J clearly sets out 7 priority focus areas, which brings in a whole of government approach with a clear and baked-in spatial lens. The first priority area builds on the work we've done to ensure that the Western Cape is a destination of choice for investment, both domestic and international, so that we can stimulate and accelerate growth. Second, we want to stimulate domestic markets and exports because exports create opportunities for businesses to expand and diversify their customer bases so that they can grow and create more jobs. This is particularly important for rural communities which rely on agriculture for employment. Third, and of critical importance, as we struggle with constantly varying stages of load shedding, we're working tirelessly to increase energy resilience and on the transition to net zero carbon, because we cannot hope to sustain or grow our economy without the power to do so, or without managing a transition that is just, in which no one is left behind. Fourth, as populations and economies grow, the need for water increases, as so many aspects of life and our economy relies on the availability of water. And so we have to boost our water security and resilience so that we can secure the future growth of industries. Fifth, and as we all know, technology and innovation drive economy-wide productivity gains through resource efficiency. Embracing these 2 aspects is what will set us apart as a region and what is crucial to our competitiveness. Sixth, we also understand that a critical part of growing our economy rests in our government investing in infrastructure and by ensuring we have a connected economy. We have already started to ramp up our focus here with the creation of a Department of Infrastructure and a Department of Mobility, with over 30 billion rand to be spent on infrastructure alone over the 2023 MTEF. And the 7th priority area is how we're going to work together across government, the private sector, academia, and all stakeholders to improve access to economic opportunities for our residents in towns, cities, and rural communities. A focus here is on ensuring our citizens have the skills they need to accept opportunities now and into the future. Importantly, G4J sets out that the role of the state is to facilitate economic opportunity for citizens by expanding choice and the independence of its residents without limiting individual freedom. We further understand that redress, which is needed to correct the wrongs of the past, is achieved by pulling more people into the economy, by stimulating competition, improving skills and productivity, raising investment, reducing poverty, and increasing employment. These 7 focus areas are what this government will be obsessed with over the next 12 years, so that we can make it as easy as possible for the private sector to drive economic growth and drastically increase job creation in the Western Cape and South Africa. We are determined to get this right because this is what it will take to build a better and much more prosperous future. Finally, the G4J implementation plan will see the spatial application of the strategy, consolidating investment both to improve the places where people are living and to capitalize on spatially and economically vibrant growth points. Clustering investment and government activities, including more affordable opportunities for people to live in these areas, and especially connecting places through better linkages between areas. What is clear is that we will never achieve breakout economic growth that creates jobs if we are limited in our ambition, constrained by unsuitable policies, and if we lack the courage to adapt, reform, and make the right choices. Change requires a vision, a strategy, and it requires action towards it. With G4J as our clear and defined economic action plan, we can realize a better future for our country.
Honourable Minister, please conclude. Your time has expired.
And we will work towards it with razor-sharp determination. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I now recognise the Honourable Nkondlo.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the ANC welcomed this discussion today, not because it is hopeful that this plan of so-called growth for jobs will work, but so that the DA and its shallow thinking can be exposed. There are a number of fundamental challenges with this plan. I will touch on 2 while Honorable Maran will touch on the others. The most glaring challenge with this growth for jobs plan or program is that it is based on outdated economics, as the minister has continued to reiterate such here. Trickle-down economics through the concentration on growth does not work. Any serious economist would point out that trickle-down economics only entrenches inequality, as it has in South Africa in the last three decades. As recently as 2015, Professor of Economics at the Paris School of Economics, Thomas Piketty, at the Nelson Mandela Memorial Lecture said, and I quote, "So if you look at this historical database that we have collected, probably the most important finding is that we cannot simply rely on market forces and trickle-down mechanisms in order to deliver the right level of inequality." Close quotes. Therefore, the basic philosophy of the plan, that is growth for jobs, is simply outdated economics in a modern day state. Secondly, the plan can only work on the basis of an independent Western Cape with an independent regulatory, financial and fiscal framework for the rest of South Africa. Last week, the Honourable Mvimbi asked the Premier what the estimated growth rate for this Western Cape was for this year. The Premier indicated that the revised estimate for the province was 0.4%, whereas the rest of South Africa it was 0.3%. Westgro's economic outlook points out that the province's growth rate mirrors that of the country's growth rate. So the question becomes, if the DA wants to secure a 4 to 6% growth rate for the province without mirroring the national economy, as Westgro suggests, how will it achieve this? Well, the Premier answered the Honourable Mvimbi using the words MEC Wenger used when she provided the Provincial Economic Review and Outlook in September last year. In her speech, she said, and I quote, "It is for this reason that it remains our top priority to decouple our provincial growth rate from that of the countries through achieving breakout economic growth in the Western Cape," something that she has repeated again at this afternoon. The growth for jobs document itself says, and I quote, "Therefore, the Western Cape's growth trajectory has to break loose from the historical trend of tracking national economic growth rates," close quote. In other words, the DA's plan to grow the Western Cape economy and create jobs is to continue on the road to an independent Western Cape. Speaker, the Premier and the MEC want suggestions from the ANC, and these would be our suggestion for an economic plan for our province. Firstly, by the data of this very DA provincial government, our niche market is agriculture, and despite the challenges of drought, COVID-19 and locusts, it is growing. It is a sector that has its market, our country, and indeed the African continent. Take agriculture seriously, do not pay it lip service. But when we say pay more attention to the agricultural sector and expand it, we mean land reform, land redistribution, and protecting the rights of our farm workers, including ensuring that they get a minimum wage, integral stakeholders in the sector. We need more people, African, colored, and Indian people involved as farmers and commercial farmers. Any person who knows how to grow a business knows that they must diversify and be inclusive. We need to diversify the ownership in the agricultural sector, the value chain, and we need to diversify tourism, another niche market in this province. Black operators are too concentrated at the lower end of the tourism value chain. We need to get them into the high value end as well, so that the sector can grow and more jobs will be created. And that is distributive economics. So while we must invest in our niche markets, we must also solidify new ones, which leads us to the second proposal, which the ANC will continue to insist that the attention must be given to the township and small rural town economies. For example, we cannot for a moment talk about growth of the provincial economy when the taxes are being manhandled, yes, manhandled as they were this week. Something that has become standard response by this provincial government and its municipalities towards the informal sector in this province, using a barbaric and actually manhandling the informal sector from the taxes to informal traders has become an order of the day in responding to those that are viewed in the periphery in this province. We must condemn any state action that is heavy-handed and that damages private property and infringes on the rights of business owners. We must also condemn taxi operators are entrepreneurs and they create jobs, whilst we condemn taxi operators having their private property damaged by law enforcement. This provincial government will be quick to condemn damage to business property. It must also condemn JP Smith Private Army, which it won't do because JP pulls the strings. And if MEC speaks about enabling private sector, let's show us the record on whether what you did with Pick and Pay was enabling private sector when you left 5 women in the townships 20 million with 20 million debt, and you have refused to enter into that space and ensure that those women situation is turned around. Again, we need to look and unlock specific bottlenecks in our provincial economic system that has been preventing more people entering the high end of the value chain of our economy. We need to create and support sectors which are labor intensive and absorptive. And when you speak about expanding choices of citizens, is also not allowing them to actually get more decent jobs, not necessarily EPWP, not jobs where they get peanuts after their labor, which that is about ensuring minimum wage is actually implemented in this provincial economy across sectors so that people can get decent remuneration for the decent work that they put in. That is the only way we will create more jobs in this province. Growth will only widen the inequality gap if it doesn't ensure distribution of wealth across all the value chain, but also from the high end right to the low end. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. I now recognize the Honourable Kasim.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, in a written response to the EFF last month, the Minister said that the total number of unemployed people between the ages of 15 and 34 years in the Western Cape is just over 400,000 for the year of 2023. The Minister further stated that individuals who are doing internships that are carrying out an activity for pay, profit or household gain meet the definition of a formal job, meaning an internship of a student even with a stipend of just 1,000 Rand, which hardly covers transport to work or to school, would then also be identified as a job. But Speaker, the classification of internships as job opportunity as opposed to learning opportunity is grossly misleading, knowing that South Africa as a whole has a high unemployment rate. And by counting those doing internships in that rate is nothing but simply a means to water down the huge problem we have as a country. If the country's economy is to offer a lot of EPWP and learnership opportunities and call them jobs, then the quality of life will deteriorate because the majority of people will be earning stipends as compared to salaries, and they will not be able to afford the necessities of life. Let's not forget to take into account South Africa's low minimum wage of 25.42 cents per hour, which is shockingly low. Meanwhile, with this, the Western Cape government continued to embrace itself as creating mass job opportunities whilst referring to internships and EPWP programs, which offer nothing other than transport money to the receiver. Under the Western Cape government, Speaker, the quality of life for the majority of African and coloured communities will never improve because they are made to work only to afford transport. Under this government, substantive equality will never be achieved because there is no oppressor who takes power and then provides the oppressed with equal opportunities. And it is for these reasons that one will struggle to come across many white persons in the province who are in internship positions. White people, no matter the education level or lack of it, will always get a free pass even in government to occupy better paying positions, whilst the African and coloured counterparts must first do internships and then hope that perhaps more opportunities in the formal sector where they are paying salaries will be made available. This system only works for white peoples while disadvantaging the African and coloured population. To add, this government does not want to empower Black, African and coloured communities with funding in order to start businesses and to be employees in their own right. But in conclusion, Speaker, we cannot always rely on foreign directive investments, which comes with an aim of making excessive profit at the cost of the poor working class in a dysfunction capitalist system like here in the Western Cape. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kasim. I now recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, a critical aspect of the Growth for Jobs strategy is connecting people, goods and institutions through a functioning mobility ecosystem and other connectivity infrastructure. Improving public transport, locating economic activities closer to residential areas can boost total productivity and create employment opportunities. This is why we say mobility is the lifeblood of a connected economy. Mobility is what enables people to and get to from work. However, honourable members, instead of a functioning mobility system, the backbone and core services run by the ANC government are on life support. PRASA, Transnet, Shosholoza Mail, mainland passenger service, Autopax, all failing our economy and our people. These mobility options would have contributed significantly to the breakout growth and jobs so desperately needed in our province, in our country. So, for example, if the taxi industry, decided to go on strike, people could have used the train, they could have used Shosholoza Mail to Worcester or any other mobility system. But because of the failing colleagues on the right-hand side, the only functional mobility system this morning, today, went on strike. And I'm so happy. General Becky Taylor was here this morning. Minister Chikunga finally woke up from a job and spoke about the strike this morning because finally, even our colleague Said was on TV about this. Finally, they've woke up to the reality that the ANC has not funded the taxi industry for the last 30 years. Well done, colleagues, for waking up to the problems that you've caused. These institutions and services are not functioning due to the decades of ANC's mismanagement and corruption. Once again, the Western Cape government has been left to solve this problem. The devolution of rail should have been done long time ago. It is promising to see the devolution strategy will be finally gazetted this year. Mind you, only because the DA-led Western Cape government, the city of Cape Town, has been putting pressure on our national government. And if my colleagues in that benches are serious, they will start writing letters to their colleagues in National Parliament, writing op-eds, lobbying the national government to devolve and start publishing the national devolution strategy. But hulle is choop still. Because of the ANC track record with this critical process, there is a
Honourable members, I've allowed some interjections because it's a political debate, but you are getting to a point where you're drowning out the speaker. Can I please ask, there's a member on the floor, please allow the member to make their submission. If you disagree with the content, then you have opportunities in the speaker's list, But for the time that the members on the floor, please do not drown out the speaker and allow the member an opportunity. Honorable Bakabaka Force, is that a point of order?
Yes, Speaker, you were quiet when the premier and their gurus were making noise here. You never said anything. So it shows that you are biased. You are not the Speaker of Parliament, but you are the Speaker of the DA. I'm asking.
That is unparliamentary. If you have honorable Bakabaka Force, if you have an issue with my rulings, there's processes to follow. I like I said when I allowed the members on my left to continue, this is a political debate. The only time it becomes an issue is when you are drowning out the speaker. So to the minute I cannot hear the speaker, it becomes a problem. Honorable Minister Wenger,
Thank
is
you.
that a point of order?
Yes, I would like to raise a point of order because the honourable member is casting aspersions on yourself as a presiding officer, which is very grave in terms of the rules. So I would like to you to perhaps go to the Hansard and make a ruling on that.
Thank you very much.
To respect the presiding officer in this house.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister Wenger. That indeed is a valid point of order, and I will consult Hansard and come back with a ruling on that. But with that being said, honourable members, I do not want to curtail debate. I mean that's the role of Parliament. You can have different ideas, different opinions, and so I don't want to stifle political debate. But you cannot do so at the expense of the member on the floor. So can I please ask that you do so respectfully and that you allow a member from whichever political party they represent in the House the opportunity as per the order paper and the speaker's list to make their contributions. Honourable Minister, my apologies for the interruption. You may continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I heard my colleague said I must keep quiet. In fact, Honourable Speaker, that is the problem. The colleagues have been kept quiet the last few years when PRASA, Transnet, SAA, Post Office, all our mobility options has collapsed. That is the problem on those people. Thankfully, we don't sit hankies to foe in this province. We consistently punch above our weight. We develop our own fresh strategy to assert national government to get the ports functioning. We have been working hard to relaunch the rail enforcement unit with PRASA and the city of Cape Town so that trains, when they finally come back, can function safely. Because safe, affordable, and reliable transport is a necessity for creating a connected economy and achieving the breakout growth as outlined by my colleague, Minister Wenger. Honourable Member, the latest IMF country report for South Africa, that transportation subsidies are critical for job seekers. Transportation subsidies are critical for job seekers. But in the absence of funding from national government, who only come here when there's a crisis like now, we have already piloted innovative process in the past. I must say, I note my disappointed, honourable members, that the minibus taxi industry has walked away from our task team and suspended their participation, where they've been working hard and put our heads together to find solutions to the problem faced by the minibus taxi industry. These issues are complex and they are not simple nor instant, but we are tackling them regardless. So I sincerely hope that the minibus taxi industry will return to the minibus taxi task team so we can solve these problems together. And I call for calm and peace during the strikes happening in our communities. Honourable members, in our province, we run the best-in-class Go George bus services. Once again, a good project in collaboration with national and local governments. The results include a 95% passenger satisfaction with the skill of our bus drivers and a 90% satisfaction with safety and security. This intergovernmental investment has created jobs, connected communities to opportunities, and has a beneficial impact to the community on George. We are clear on the bigger picture that improved mobilities and connected economy is the way for the outbreak growth. We distribute approximately 400 bicycles to community NGOs, small business, neighborhood watches, and schools. This empowers communities through increased independence and autonomy, as bicycles allow people to meet a variety of travel needs without being constrained by costs, public transport schedules, or other factors. From the micro to the macro scale, this Western Cape government understands what it takes to build a connected economy, and we are committed to providing improved mobility so that people can access opportunities, service, and dignities, unlike the colleagues in the ANC. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister Mackenzie. Order, members. Order, members. Order, members. Members. Members on my left-hand side and on my right-hand side, honorable members. The next speaker on the speakers list is Honorable de Villiers. Honorable de Villiers, I recognize you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Good Party boldly support this vision. Job creation is at the core of solving a great deal of our social problems, improving quality of life, and ensuring a better future for all. I stand here this afternoon very concerned about how the DA sees this province enabling this growth. What concerns me is the number of top-ranking officials from the DA suddenly visiting USA, the numerous grants being received from American donors, foundations, and history of controlling foreign governments for their benefits that they are devoid of publicity. The fact that the city did everything in its power to keep fighting for a successful outcome of the Bezos Amazon Development Observatory, and that now seems to be linked in some quarters to donations received from Bezos Foundation and its affiliates. Although, again, I reiterate that good welcomes opportunities to employ our people, we cannot do this at the expense of our hard fought for freedom and independence being eroded yet again by unscrupulous foreign investment. We keep making it easier for foreign conglomerates to do what they do best, enrich themselves and plunder and abuse the host. Why do we not have the same eagerness to simplify the process required for our own entrepreneurs and small informal businesses owners to grow and create opportunities for our employed? I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable de Villiers. I recognize the Honorable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the Western Cape government launched a growth for strategy for jobs, and Minister Wenger, in an overview, said to citizens to close their eyes and to think of 2035. Now, the truth is, Mr. Speaker, that we are all dependent upon God for even our next heartbeat. So, by the grace of God, if we are still alive, firstly, I would like to see an ACDP government, a godly government, where we have a beautiful country, where this country is an economic powerhouse, where there's no load shedding, where there's no corruption, where there's no crime, and where we have a thriving economy with unemployment as a null. But let's come back to today. Mr. Speaker, I want to know from the minister, did your department, tertiary institutions, even, private sectors look at what is the demands of this economy? Because many of our youngsters, our students, go to university, they study to become doctors, they study to become entrepreneurs, or whatever the case may be, but they do not fit. They are unemployed. A lot of our graduates are still on the street looking for jobs. So I want to know from the minister, did you do that audit with tertiary institutions, with private sectors, to see what is needed so that our youngsters can study what is needed? Because when there's a need, we can fill that gap. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, what is important is that also we are not retaining people that we qualify in this country. We're losing teachers, we're losing doctors, we're losing all of them. They are the best, but other countries come and recruit them. What are you doing to keep our people that's so highly skilled in our country to make this beautiful country work? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Christians. I now recognize the Honorable Murray.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, today I would like to dedicate this speech to the entrepreneurs, the innovators, and the go-getters that keep our economy going. I'm honored to be sponsoring this debate today, focusing on the Herculean efforts of the Western Cape government to turn around the job crisis through its pioneering Growth for Jobs, or G4J strategy. According to the World Economic Forum, the top cities in Africa to do business include Cairo, Algiers, Casablanca, Nairobi, Accra, and Lagos. But through G4J, we can become the business hub of Africa. Speaker, we know that the private sector creates meaningful jobs and not government through EPWB. But we can only do this if innovation and growth are not stifled, which unfortunately we see in the ANC-sponsored employment equity regulations, the expropriation bill, and the copyright and performance protection bills. An example of how business can thrive if they are not undermined by government is Innovation City. I visited the local tech company just yesterday, or just Monday, and saw firsthand how it is creating thousands of jobs. Through G4J, we are now taking the ease of doing business to the next level so that we can make the Western Cape the business hub of Africa. Cape Town and the Western Cape have well-established tourism brands, bringing more visitors and jobs to the province every single year. G4J will grow this sector further, and Westgrow is already hard at work bringing more airlines to Cape Town International Airport by expanding the highly successful Air Access program. Going forward, my own committee will be preemptively addressing blockages ahead of the upcoming high tourism season. We will do this by inviting Airports Company South Africa, or AXA, the National Departments of Transport and Home Affairs, the Provincial Departments of DDAT, and the Premier and Westgrow. We will also receive an update from AXA on the much anticipated plans to expand both Cape Town and George airports. This follows their feedback that the expansion program will be communicated to the committee once the airport economic regulator has approved it this September. Speaker, people want to come and spend their money here in Cape Town and in the Western Cape, and we will make it as easy as possible for them to do that, because more visitors means more jobs. But I'm frustrated by the delay by Home Affairs in implementing a remote working visa. And that's why I'll be writing to the Minister again on the reasons for the delay of its implementation to date, despite guarantees that this would be done by the end of June already. In a globalized world, improving channels of trade is a surefire way to ensure that our businesses can grow and our people can prosper. In the Western Cape, the Port of Cape Town plays a pivotal role in enabling export-oriented businesses. The Western Cape government will continue working with Transnet to get the port and rail up to speed, making us the business hub of Africa. Recently, DDAT has published an evidence-led transport congestion report, which will help to do exactly this. It has identified the key causes of the delay at the port and made recommendations on how to fix it, including investment in infrastructure, which is yet another key tenet of G4J. Now, all that is needed is for the ANC-led national government to get out of the way so that Transnet can enhance the infrastructure necessary to boost our exports. And we very much hope that they will get out of the way following the next elections. The G4J strategy will enhance the Western Cape's business brand. So when you think of doing business in Africa, you will think of the Western Cape, the easiest place on the continent to do business, with the best infrastructure, the most skilled workforce, and the least red tape. We will be the business hub of Africa. Now, Speaker, I am more than familiar with the ANC's rhetoric that there is not enough being done to empower the township economy. And I believe it's superficial of the ANC to refer to G4J as a form of trickle-down economics, because this reflects a poor understanding and familiarity of its aims. At the core of G4J, it focuses on horizontal enablement. This is to enable all businesses, big and small, private and informal, urban and rural. This is not a trickling down approach where only the elite can benefit. Collectively, the 7 pillars outlined by the Minister will have a direct GDP impact of 395 billion, and economic modelling shows that this can create between 600,000 and over 1 million jobs. I'm also happy to inform my colleagues across the floor that a Western Cape Township strategy and specific township action plans will be developed and implemented within targeted communities by DDAT. It will identify growth opportunities within townships and prioritize key needs of the community, including digital access centres, Wi-Fi, clinics, among others. This will give our township entrepreneurs the support that they need to grow and to flourish. My committee has further commissioned and submitted reports on informal economy as well as extortion to businesses, to the Minister and to the Department to further aid them in their strategic approach in G4J. Speaker, I'm excited by this strategy. It will improve the lives and livelihoods of our residents. And with that, Speaker, I truly do believe that the Western Cape will be the business hub of Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Murray. Honourable members, I now recognise the Honourable Member Marine.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I read a press release by Councillor Paul Jacobson that screams ice cream and beach chairs sold out by city. The DA in the EXCO in the city of Cape Town have implemented the national government's racially charged employment equity bill by giving preference to Black African traders on beaches at the expense of coloured and Indian traders. The Metro has recently announced that through a policy of equitable employment, they are taking away trading rights from existing coloured traders. A certain Mr. Cedras has traded on our beaches for 60 years since being a schoolboy, and later having obtained his own beach trading permit, he vended at Camps Bay and Clifton, and then ventured into hiring beach chairs and umbrellas. But because they objected to this change in the city of Cape Town's permit policies, these coloured traders and Mr. Cedras were punished and their long-standing permits withdrawn. This needs to be investigated by you and our Premier as part of our oversight function. How can the DA stop the declining growth rate and rising unemployment if coloured labour in the Western Cape is to be sacrificed on the altar of equity? Since 1652, the coloured people were the traders here. Nothing has changed since. The equity law is a racist law. The DA will be held accountable for this. The only qualification for employment or tenders should be your technical ability or skills and job experience, not skin color, not race, not ethnicity. Die Bybel sê dat is die klein jakkaltjies wat die oes vernietig. En ek wil sê die premier moet die klein
Honourable Marie, your
jakkaltjies
time has
vasvat.
expired. Please conclude.
And only if we get away from racism will we promote economic growth at full employment, appeasing the ANC with
Thank you
your
very
eyes
much,
on
Honourable
cabinet
Marie.
posts is
Thank you
being
very much,
naive.
Honourable Marie. I now recognise the Honourable Minister, Minister Simmers.
Honourable Speaker, while the other 8 provinces are staring at the floor in despair, the Western Cape government is crafting solutions. Or as Sir Winston Churchill once famously said, the pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, while the optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. And currently, South Africa is faced with the difficulty of high levels of unemployment, proudly brought to you by the ANC. But as the Western Cape government, we are seeking to address this problem. We see this as an opportunity for us to not only grow the economy of the region, but also create job opportunities at a rapid pace. Speaker, infrastructure acts as a facilitator and enabler for the mobility of labor, capital, and other inputs to production, thus improving productivity and reducing costs. It also increases information flows, opens new opportunities, increases competition, and reduces asymmetries and other market imperfections or failures. And through the G4J, we are simply seeking to accelerate what we are already doing. With the investment in infrastructure, we will ring-fence that which we are doing and plan to do over the medium term to ensure that infrastructure is the catalyst in support of my colleagues' Growth for Jobs strategy. The strategy aims to achieve real-term economic growth between 4% and 6% per year by 2035. And infrastructure development plays a crucial role in stimulating provincial economic growth as it creates job opportunities, drives investment, and enhances overall development. And through our 2050 Western Cape Infrastructure Framework, we will support all aspects of infrastructure growth and development in the Western Cape by, firstly, creating a conducive infrastructure regulatory environment, as well as investment in renewable and digital infrastructure energy. This will lay the groundwork for shifting our infrastructure trajectory over the short term. In the medium term, we will strengthen provincial integration by improving transportation networks, energy grids, and digital connectivity. And moving into the long term, our goal is to build resilient infrastructure systems in our towns, secondary cities, and the city itself. Speaker, but as a government, we are not today only talking about what we are going to do, but rather accelerating that which we are already doing. Since 2019 to date, we have created just under 34,000 job opportunities and trained over 919 youths through the Youth Services Program. So the next time the opposition members travel to the following projects across our province, they must stop and realize actually what this DA-led government has done. If you are traveling between Clydestown and Beaufort West, you would have seen the maintenance to that road. It was an 18-month project. We created 954 job opportunities over this period. Just 3 weeks ago, I opened the Saldanha IDZ Access Road, a project completed in under 10 months. But given the need for port expansion in Cape Town and Saldanha Bay, this road will play a crucial role in enabling port access as an economic catalyst for local and international markets. But moreover, it is known the other importance of this corridor is the newly formed Green Hydrogen Economic Agreement between the Western Cape, Northern Cape, and Namibia. So this will see us, through the energy infrastructure, seeing massive secondary sectors being created, making this road another key unlocker of those regional growth opportunities. A third one is the Malmesbury Bypass. Once again, 3 weeks ago, I initiated that project, a 529 million rand project, which is earmarked to be complete by 2025. Just in the incremental phase, it seeks to create 220 job opportunities. It will empower and create opportunities for 37 SMMEs, which means the overall job opportunities we will be creating just in one project is going to be well over 2,000 by the end of that project. But what makes this road also unique, Honourable Speaker, it interlinks and interconnects various communities along that corridor to the N7 to ensure that our farmers can get their produce to market even quicker now. But we also invest in education infrastructure because we also build the leaders of tomorrow who will be the recipients of my colleague's plan. And in the community of Middelbos in Saldanha Bay, we completed once again in under 2 years the Middelbos Primary School, the cost of 88 million rand, 90% of all the job opportunities coming from that community. And I must say, the ANC ward councillor thanked this DA-led government when I visited that school site 3 weeks ago with him because 1,860 scholars between grade R and grade 7 are going to attend that school. Once again, built in under 2 years. But what is also unique, Honourable Speaker, next to that school site, we are about to commence construction of a clinic. Once again, the ANC ward councillor thanked this DA-led government because he knows opportunities will come to the local community under the banner of a DA-led provincial government. Honourable Speaker, these projects are but some that I can mention today in the House. But this exemplifies the positive outcomes achieved through strategic infrastructure investments. But they also demonstrate this provincial government's commitment to improving people's lives, to ensure fostering economic growth, but above all, ensuring a better future for our communities, and infrastructure-led growth will play that role. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister Simmers. I now recognize the Honourable Maran.
Thanks very much, Speaker, and good afternoon to those present. Speaker, first, let me also thank the Honourable Murray for sponsoring this debate. Myself and the Honourable Murray were part of a group that visited California in May. But before we left, we met with the Consul General's office.
Order, members.
We met with the Consul General's office, and they informed us about a H2A program. It's a program basically where the Americans recruited workers from this side. And they told us before we left that at that current moment, more than 9,000 workers come from South Africa. 60% of those comes from the Western Cape. Yeah. They are earning between 70 and 80,000 rand a month, farm workers. All 60% coming from the Western Cape are white. Yeah. And I haven't heard a word from the Honourable Murray speaking about the HCO program. And
Order,
the
members.
And the 60%.
Order, members. Honourable Maran, please take your seat. I recognize the Honourable Murray and I recognize the Honourable Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Honourable Murray, is that a point of order?
Yes, Speaker. Speaker, my question is it parliamentary for a member to point at another member? Thank you.
Honourable Murray, I will request the Honourable Member to please not point at any member and to withdraw his finger. Honourable Maran, please withdraw your finger and please don't point at any members. We are all honourable members. On a serious note, members, we are all honourable members.
So it's important.
Honourable Maran, I'm still on the floor. So can we please respect one another as honourable members? Honourable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I'm covered by the Honourable Murray in terms of the finger pointing and also to address the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Maran, can I please ask that you speak through me?
Thanks, Speaker. It's important for the Honourable Murray to speak about the finger that points to her instead of speaking about the export of farm workers. And this particular H2A program that basically having 100% that comes from the Western Cape whites. That's the issue that we need to discuss. And I haven't heard the Honourable Murray once when she's spoken about the California trip, speaking about this particular program. All she has spoken is about AGOA. Premier, your previous speaker through you, the Honourable Premier, your leader at one stage, the Muzamani, said wherever the DA governs, they will create a job in every home. In every home. We are still waiting in the Western Cape for a job to be created in every home. Speaker, the Honourable Summers have spoken, and I see that the previous MEC for Human Settlements is making his comeback. The Honourable Mr. Madikizela said in 2020 that this government cannot build houses forever for the poor because the government is not able to create work opportunities, job opportunities for those people. They gave houses to sustain those houses. He spoke honestly. And I'm not sure what the Honourable Summers is speaking about. We will see when he contests him at the end of this year in a conference. I even don't want to speak, the Honourable Speaker, because the question that begs also is jobs for who? I don't want to speak about the son of MEC Mayor that has been sorted out within this government. We must ask jobs for who when we speak about these jobs. Jobs for pairs, J4W, jobs for who? Speaker, the DA must realize that it cannot be held responsible for a 0.4% growth rate in the Western Cape. Growth rates don't depend on the government. Therefore, if the DA thinks it can generate its own growth rates of 4 to 6%, then it must be ashamed of producing a growth rate of 0.4% after 14 years of DA rule. The reality is, and if the DA knew everything about how economies work, then it will realize that even if they insulated the Western Cape economy, it will still be dependent on the South African economy. The DA knows that the financial and fiscal framework sits with National Treasury in Tshwane. It cannot roll out this plan comprehensively without the buying from National Treasury. In fact, as naive as this plan is, I think it can decouple from the South African economy.
Maran, please take your seat. Honourable members, can I please, on both on my left and right hand side, Honourable Maran is trying to deliver his speech. You are drowning him out. Can I please ask his colleagues to also please allow Honourable Maran to deliver his contribution to this debate?
How many time left, Speaker?
You've got 4 minutes and 4 seconds.
Thank you. And so the DA must admit here today that this is another cog in the independence wheel. We have the Provincial Powers Bill. We have the devolution of rail, police and ports. And now this, an economic plan that wants to make the Western Cape independent. But not only is this plan based on outdated economics, not only does this plan want an independent Western Cape, in fact, it can only work through an independent Western Cape. But thirdly, this plan is also devoid of any notion of globalization. According to JP Morgan, even economic powerhouse China is expecting to growth a growth rate of 4.4% for the next 10 to 15 years. So where will the DA administration in the Western Cape get 4 to 6% to grow per annum in the next 12 years? The reality, Speaker, is that this is another safety plan, a plan which is a complete failure. This is another, and I quote, "We will procure our own vaccines as the Western Cape." The Western Cape did not procure a single vaccine. This is another, "We will get our municipalities off the Eskom grid." Today, 3 years later, all municipalities are still on the Eskom grid. All spin and absolutely no substance. All headlines, no real change. The growth for job plan mentions that the GDP of the Western Cape will need to grow by 200 billion to reach 1 trillion in 2035. But the plan does not mention the current size of the provincial economy. According to Wesco, the size of the provincial economy of the Western Cape for the second quarter of 2022 was just over 651 billion. So it then seems not only does the DA use outdated economics, not only does the DA want an independent Western Cape, but it also cannot add. MEC Wenger, 651 billion plus 200 billion does not equal 1 trillion. It equals 851 billion. The Premier promises 50,000 jobs per annum in the next 12 years. But again, the figures are so low, you would really have to top up to fail. But where are the jobs that the Premier have promised before? Let us remind ourselves that this is not the Premier's first plan for jobs. In October 2020, the Premier stood up in this house and announced his economic recovery plan. On that day, he promised to create, and I quote, 20,000 jobs through rapid interventions, including 26 private sector investments. Then, currently in the pipeline, end quote. A mere 4 months later, in February 2021, reading his SOPA, we heard nothing about the 26 rapid interventions, and by the then 7,500 jobs were created, far from 20,000. A year later, at SOPA 2022, even though he was proud to announce his administration's failed recovery, we heard neither of the 26 rapid interventions, nor about how many of the actual 20,000 jobs were actually created. But one supposes that in October 2020, the Premier believed that the state does not play a role in creating jobs. That's why he made the promise. But today, the DA uses the excuse the private sector creates jobs to cover the broken promises. And now it's back to the state creating growth for jobs. Typical DA flip-flopping. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Maran. I now recognize the Honourable Baartman.
Honourable Speaker, fellow South Africans, the Growth for Jobs strategy focuses on laying foundations for job-creating growth and addressing high unemployment in South Africa, specifically in the Western Cape. This strategy drew in views of 550 stakeholders and reached 1,522 additional people over the course of 160 engagements. It is an ambitious goal for the Western Cape to grow its economy between 4 and 6% by 2035. And Speaker, in case the Minister of Education has not given us enough lessons, 4.4 is between 4 and 6%. We will be able to achieve this through investment, exports, energy resilience, water security, technology and innovation, infrastructure and digitization, education, skills, and entrepreneurship. Speaker, the Western Cape has been through drought, floods, and fire. It's been through a global COVID health pandemic, locusts, and load shedding. We cannot still bear the brunt of failing national ANC policies. In terms of investment, Speaker, the Western Cape has consistently been rated as one of Africa's top investment destinations. Over the past 2 decades, the Western Cape has attracted 434 foreign direct investment projects, of which over 90% were greenfield investments. They have injected an estimated 157 billion rand in capital and resulted in the creation of 31,371 jobs. I think that's also above 20,000. But the goal in this plan is the private sector investment to reach 20% of regional GDP, translating to 200 billion rand by 2035. And in fact, Speaker, this is in line, exactly in line with the National Development Plan saying targeting 20% private sector investment as measured by gross fixed capital formation to GDP ratio. The Western Cape level at the moment is private sector investment being at 13% in 2019. And I would like to quote the President Cyril Ramaphosa when he recently said, quote, "We all know that government does not create jobs. Businesses create jobs," quote close. This can be done. Hope and prosperity is possible. The ANC heckled that, we're only making promises and this is based on outdated economies, Speaker. But the only thing outdated in this House, Speaker, is the African National Congress. This is why we need breakout growth, because otherwise we will not be able to grow above the current provincial government percentage. You cannot grow higher than the national government if you do not break away from the ball and chain that is weighing you down. The Western Cape Investment Promotion Program further facilitated 5.9 billion rand worth of committed investment into the province and 4,445 jobs from international, national, and local investors through their services, activities, and in the 2021 financial year. Further, Speaker, in terms of exports, between 2000 and 2021, provincial exports grew by 146% in real terms compared to 35% for South Africa's exports. Further, in 2019, 2 million international visitors came to the province, spending 18.6 billion rand. The goal, thus, is to increase the value of Western Cape exports of goods and services, inclusive of tourism, to be tripled by 2035. And this, Speaker, is why the AGOA agreement is so important. Agriculture is one of the industries that benefit most from AGOA, accounting for 251,000 jobs in this province. And through you, Speaker, to the member de Villiers, the reason for me why AGOA is important, this morning, for example, I sent Minister Meyer, the Minister of Agriculture in our province, an email regarding small-scale black winemakers in our province, representing 8 brands who have serious concerns regarding exports and are asking for the Western Cape government help. And they pleaded, they asked, they came to come see me to say, please, Western Cape, do what you can to remain in the AGOA agreement. Speaker, according to the Quarterly Labour Force Survey, Q1 2023 by Statistics SA, the Western Cape had the biggest year-on-year change in employment with an increase of 15.7%, equating to 360,000 new jobs created in the last year compared to the net total created nationally of 43,000. Western Cape created 47,000 jobs in agriculture in the last year, compared to the net total created nationally of 43,000. Further, 113,000 jobs in trade were created in the Western Cape over the same period. Further, the Western Cape province has the lowest expanded unemployment rate in the country, decreasing 0.9 percentage points to 25.9 percentage points over the last quarter. This is a full 16.5 percentage points lower than the next best performing province, Gauteng. And while, Speaker, I do not usually enjoy going into specific demographic statistics, but I'm actually going to quote statistics from the written reply on 15th of June that the minister sent to Member Kama, and it actually indicated that from that quarterly labor statistics that the Western Cape has the lowest percentage of Black African unemployment in South Africa, that the Western Cape has the lowest percentage of female unemployment in South Africa, and that the youth unemployment, while Member Kasim is correct being at 467,000, is lower than the employment of Gauteng at KZN counterparts. And you will read in the reply, KZN's youth unemployment is at 799,000. Gauteng's youth unemployment is at 1.4 million. Speaker, one of the reasons this plan will succeed is because we have already done programs in our province that shows that this can be done. You can see, for example, in the SMME Booster Fund, which has assisted 860 SMMEs, sustaining 4,977 jobs, creating an additional 651 jobs. And for the 2023 year, an allocated budget of 7.9 million rand was put aside to continue this program in order for SMMEs to have holistic business development support. Further, the department provided total of 15 tourism products across the Western Cape through tourism product development Development Fund in the 2021 financial year, leveraging an additional 13 million rand worth of investment and 300 jobs in the sector. The department further already has a Jump app. I'm not sure if the opposition has it on their phones, but I have it on my particular devices, which is a free DDAT mobile app for entrepreneurship and digital readiness for businesses to start, grow, and scale their businesses. And this particular digital business toolkit even provides access to apps, business advice opportunities, and self-assessment for an additional 405 users in the past financial year. Further, the Department of Economic Development has been focusing on experiential learning programs that respond to challenges associated with lack of experience, skills, and qualifications. This is also highlighted in the Growth for Jobs strategy. The focus of this particular program has been one of the most cost-effective employment creation programs in the country by securing sustainable youth employment at an approximately of 25,000 rand for particular jobs. The programs further secured more than 100 million rand in leveraging funding from private sector and other funding sources during the 2021 financial year. So the private sector must be our partner when it comes to growth for jobs. During the 2021 financial year, further, more than 2,400 beneficiaries benefited or are benefiting from this particular program. They provide a combination of structured, accredited, or vendor skills program, experiential learning of up to 12 months, and a
Thank you, Honourable Bartman. Your time has expired. Please conclude.
Thank you, Speaker. They receive stipend of up to 3,000 a month, which was further topped up by another 3,000. But you see, Speaker, we must not bear the brunt of ANC national policies.
Thank you,
and we support the Growth for Jobs
Honourable
strategy.
Bartman. Please take your seat. Honourable members, thank you very much. That concludes the debate on this subject. We will now move on to interpellations as printed on the order paper as per Rule 197. I recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, previously contractors took PRASA to court over unpaid dues, and the court case is still ongoing. But some of these went on strike, resulting in damage to essential infrastructure. The following information was received from PRASA. There are currently 5 contracted security services, namely Chipa Protection Services, Supreme Security Services, Komwezi Security Services, Sichaba Security Services, Chuma Security Services. According to PRASA, all payments are up to date for the above contractors. However, PRASA is still managing some matters with a contractor in distress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister Mackenzie. I now recognize the Honourable America.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it is evident that the current situation is causing immense hardship for our citizens. With the severe damage to critical infrastructure and a delay in the restoration efforts, public transport has been severely affected, exacerbating the existing challenges faced by our people. The rising incidence of taxi violence and the lack of reliable train services have burdened our citizens with soaring transport costs, making it increasingly difficult for them to make ends meet. However, I am pleased to acknowledge the efforts of the DA government in prioritizing the enhancement of our transport options. The monumental 5.2 billion rand expansion plan aimed at introducing the My City bus services to key areas in Wynberg, Khayelitsha, Mitchells Plain, Nyanga, Philippi, Ottery, Nova Park, and Claremont marks a significant stride towards alleviating the transportation challenges of our citizens. This initiative showcases the potential of positive change when a capable provincial and city government takes charge of such issues as they are better attuned to the specific needs of their constituents. So, Minister, how will the devolution of rail in the province fast-track the need for effective passenger train services, especially the Central Line, where millions of people would benefit from the reopening of this crucial corridor? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable America, and I recognize the Honourable Mvimbi.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Can you hear me?
Indeed, I can. You are audible. You can continue.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. It is with indignation that as the ANC will bring this to the attention of the House, the matter regarding PRASA. It is a known fact that at the heart of a functional economy is a functional railway system. The majority of our citizens travel and make use of trains. On 16 March, PRASA is said to have partially resumed services on the Central Line, which had been closed since 2019. The route had been severely damaged and vandalized, which led to its closing. Since its opening, the route has been running only from Nyanga to Maitland, which is still being rebuilt. PRASA has promised that the Central Line will be fully operational by December this year. The problem associated with PRASA requires collaborative work between the governments through ensuring that assistance that is given is consistent with good governance and other related legislations. The delays and blame game by the City of Cape Town on the Housing Development Agency are impeding on the total relocation of the citizens affected on this line. National government came to the rescue of PRASA through the Human Settlement Minister, Mamuloko Kubai, who allocated 111 million for the development and relocation of informal settlements. This comes at the back of the proposed 850 million set out in 2018, in which the city held it was going to upgrade informal settlement and backyard services. The DA-led government has since to date not delivered as per arrangement and are shifting blame all over with no clear solution. Implementation on the relocation of the citizens on the Central Line. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Vimby. I now recognise the Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, of course, the safety of our passengers on the rail services is important. The problem, and I heard what the Minister said, that PRASA is up to date paying security service. The problem is they skip. So when it comes to a month, then they don't pay for 2 months, and then you have a strike, meaning that our users of the rail system is not safe. So I want to ask the Minister the question, is he in discussion with PRASA to make sure that they do on-time payments and not skip? Because that is the problem that we are facing. They might be up to date now, come a month or two, and they skip, and then we have a strike, and our users of our rail system is not safe. So that is the question, Minister. Are you in constant talks with them? Because our lives of our citizens are important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognise the Honourable America.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, it is concerning that the National Minister of Transport had to extend the reopening of the Central Line deadline once again, this time to December 2023. However, it has been expressed that even this extended deadline is unlikely to be met due to the considerable amount of work that still needs to be done to repair this critical infrastructure. Many of our residents, Deputy Speaker, have lost hope in the prospect of using trains for their daily commute to work, despite the availability of beautiful, efficient, and affordable train services. And for far too many in our most vulnerable communities, the opportunity to use these trains remain an elusive dream. So in the light of this situation, it is essential to question the responsibility and accountability of the National Minister and PRASA. Are they acknowledging the lack of progress and the consequences it has on our citizens' lives? Do they have adequate measures in place to ensure the successful and timely reopening the Central Line? Your guess is as good as mine. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable America. And I recognise Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, to Honourable Christians, I don't think PRASA understands the consequences of their actions. I can tell you a few weeks ago, we I was actually contacted by a security guard who alerted me to the fact that the company, which is called Chipa Protection Services or Chipa Trading Academy, were not paying their salaries. Chipa saying is PRASA is not paying their salaries. But what it means is those staff members don't come to work. And if the staff members don't come to work on the PRASA trains, it affects our critical infrastructure. So discussions with them is around paying their contractors on time. However, it seems the contractors that they're paying are not paying the security guards. The poor quality of contractors that they employ, and I hate to use the word, but it's fly-by-nights who just there to make money. They employ security guards who's not been to any formal accreditation. And if you see some of these security guards at some of these facilities, you will ask yourself, where did they do the training? They stand there at the station, they're on their cell phones, they've got no regard that they are protecting critical infrastructure. And you can understand why some of them are not seemingly well skilled. The second contractor that we found out through the security guards, including a unionist that came to see me in my office, company by the name of Mzansi Security Services, armed guards. And what the unionists are telling me, this company seems to receive preferential treatment at PRASA and they are immune from interference. This is the exact words I took from the unionist. He said that the employers have raised concerns about underpayment, monthly salaries, and contractual disputes via the company to PRASA, but through Mzansi Security Services at PRASA, with their connections at PRASA, they seem to be untouchable. Which brings me to Honorable Mvimbi's point where he says about PRASA's solutions. And Honorable Mvimbi, the solution to PRASA's problems lies with devolution. PRASA cannot be saved. They are way past stage 4 cancer. They are patient and we should sing at their funeral. PRASA cannot be saved. It is time to devolve them to the most competent governments. And in this case, it is the Western Cape DA-led government that can do a far better job than the ANC government. So that the solution to PRASA lies with devolution and devolve them to a government that can save us, which is the Western Cape government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. That brings us to the end of interpellation 1. We move over to interpellation 2. In terms of Standing Rule 1965, the interpellation is now in Member Barnes's name. Thank you very much. I recognise the Honourable Murray.
The Department of Culture Affairs and Sport acknowledged the severity of violence and crime in our communities. We are committed to implement effective measures to tackle these issues head-on with a primary focus on prevention. The role played by DCAS in keeping young people out of gangs is not a DCAS individual responsibility, but a collective approach that the department is contributing to as part of the safety priority of the Western Cape government. The safety priority of Western Cape government is a whole of government and whole of society strategy. The three focus areas for intervention is capacity and effectiveness of policing, the social protective factors against violence. This is where most of DCAS programs have an impact. The effective urban management focused on creating safe precincts such as libraries and community arts centers are implemented to ensure safe public spaces and also by improving the design of public spaces to increase the feeling and experience of safety. Youth empowerment and recreation programs provide positive alternatives and opportunities. DCAS is actively involved in creating and supporting youth empowerment and recreational programs. These programs engage young people in various sports, arts, and cultural activities, helping them to develop valuable skills and talent while fostering a sense of community and belonging. For example, our Year Beyond, MOD programs, after-school program, youth camps, holiday programs, club sport, indigenous games, inter-provincial school sport competitions, numerous major sporting and culture events, dance, drama, theatre, visual arts, craft programs, reading programs, National Day festivals, community festivals, capacity building programs, archival visits weeks, sport academies, life skills training, mentorship initiatives, leadership development, and career guidance. Through these programs, we aim to equip young persons with the necessary skills and support to make positive choices and avoid engaging in gang-related and other social ills-related activities. Furthermore, we collaborate with educational institutions and community organizations. We have a positive operational interaction with the Western Cape Education Department to create target outreach programs, in particular the creation of school sport facilities. The Museum Service provides educational programs and various community outreach programs to creating platform for dialogue, community engagement, identity formation, and a sense of belonging. These programs' impact is that youth are supported to stay in school and become economically active. For example, 70 to 80% Yuboneers youth pathway into work or studies post the program each year. We collaborate with law enforcement to ensure a more coordinated and impactful response to the challenges at hand. Our department works closely with law enforcement agencies to implement strategies that will help curb gang activities effectively in safety hotspot areas. We recognize the support of non-governmental organizations. We provide financial and logistical support to the NGOs working on the ground to address these social issues, especially in the arts and culture sector and with holiday programs. We recognize the invaluable role played by NGOs in addressing social ills and gang-related problems. Culture and arts have the power to unite communities and instill a sense of pride and identity. We support and promote cultural and arts-based initiatives that celebrate diversity, inclusivity, and positive values. To effectively combat social ills and gang activities, we have a comprehensive understanding of the root causes and the evolving nature of these challenges. Our department invests in research and data collection to develop evidence-informed policies and interventions. These data-driven approaches enable us to adapt and refine our strategies needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I now recognise the Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I rise today to discuss the Democratic Alliance's failure on youth development as well as its lies to cover for this failure. On the 17th of July 2023, DA MPL Gillian Bosman issued a statement claiming that the DA-run Western Cape government is spending 1.4 billion over the next 3 financial years to address the issue of gang activity amongst young people in the province. This statement is riddled with false claims and a lot of misleading statements, Deputy Speaker. Firstly, we must clarify that it is not true that the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport is spending 1.4 billion on gang prevention programs. In her reply to Bosman's question, MEC Andrew Mare made it clear that the department does not have specific APP targets that relate to anti-gang activities. And as a result, it is not possible to quantify an exact amount for this purpose. There we go. First, blue lie exposed. The department is not spending any funds specifically on gang prevention program, Member Bosman. Secondly, there is no evidence that the department programs are targeted at addressing the root causes of gang involvement, such as poverty, inequality, unemployment, and lack of opportunities, especially for Black youth, African, colored, and Indian. Both youth unemployment as well as youth not in employment, education, or training in the Western Cape consist of over 96% of these Black youth. Under this sad reality, for Black youth in the Western Cape, how can we expect the department's program like the Year Beyond the MOD program, After Schools program, Life Skills and Training, and other programs listed by Member Bosman, which in the main are targeted with youth at school?
Honourable Member, apologies, would you just take a seat? Honourable Bartman.
Deputy Speaker, I would like to find out whether the member is willing to take a question.
Honourable Member.
I will take a question when I finish it.
Right, thank you very much. You may proceed. You may proceed.
Which in the main are targeted with youth at school.
Order. Order.
Which in the main are targeted with youth at school to be effective in preventing youth from joining gangs. The department's programs for youth development are severely underfunded and unlikely to cater for all the at-risk youth in need of them in the province, and as a result, fail to achieve the desired outcomes. Honorable Speaker, we've consistently said that the department is severely underfunded and is therefore unable to effectively execute its mandate, including what we are discussing now. I therefore wish to ask the MEC, when will her department's budget be increased? I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Barnes. I recognise Honourable Bosman.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Firstly, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I would like to thank Member Kama, Member Barnes, and all the other members of the opposition for backing our motion in the House last week, where they welcomed the 1.4 billion funding dedicated to programs aimed at positively influencing our youth at risk and steering them away from gang-related activities. This unanimous agreement on this motion demonstrates its significance, and we appreciate the support after the tantrum Member Kama threw in the media. Thus, conceding the fact that Member Barnes cannot seem to understand is that the core focus of DCAS is to create a socially inclusive, creative and active and connected Western Cape. There are many success stories of what such programs can achieve in communities, whether it be sports and recreational activities, youth development programs, arts and culture programs, or education and skills development initiatives. These programs remain vital and play an important role in community building, social cohesion, and keeping our youth at risk. While some members of this House also argue that the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports is underfunded, it should be acknowledged that this province gets much less funding from national government's equitable share than other provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Limpopo, and the Eastern Cape. These provinces get much more funding than the Western Cape and therefore can have bigger budgets. Minister, how would a larger and more equitable allocation positively enhance your department's ability to serve our communities and even more effectively? And also, how would opposition members actually reading your reports contribute to their understanding of the work of DCAS?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Bosman. I recognise Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I want to agree with the Minister. It's a whole of society approach. But the Minister must understand that your department plays a critical role when it comes to addressing youth at risk. The one thing that was mentioned is that I believe that the department is underfunded because we have 181 mod centers, and we've got over 1,500 schools in the Western Cape. So we've got 181 mod centers. And there is, I believe, critical areas where our youth is at risk, where we need more mod centers. I've said it before, some of our youth cannot get to the mod centers because of safety. But Minister, we must also understand that, you know, many of our youngsters, because of sports and culture, they excel. And I must also compliment that you are playing that role, but I just think more can be done. So what is your department doing more? Because you see, the more we get into sport and into culture, the less gangs can recruit. And this is the question: what is your department doing more to make sure that our youth at risk are not recruited by gangs, but rather playing a constructive role by their talents in sport and culture? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognise the Honourable Class. Honourable Class. No? I'm going to move on. I will then recognise the Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. A wise man once said, I quote, "In time of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act," close quote. In this regard, I call on MEC Mare to immediately clarify these blue lies by the former speakers and set the record straight by providing the public with accurate information about the government spending on youth development. I also call on Minister to ensure that the department's programs are adequately funded in order for the department to achieve its mandate, including on the programs that are targeted at addressing the root cause of gang involvement. Due to the DA's failure to prioritize youth development and address the underlying issues that drive youth into gangs, Young people in our province are increasingly turning into gangs for a sense of belonging, security, and opportunities. The DA has been in power in the Western Cape for 14 years, but they have done very little to address the root causes of gang violence and other social ills that are affecting our young people. In order to address these issues, the 1.4 billion that is bandied around by the member should instead be spent annually on these programs, not over a 3 financial year. There's nothing to celebrate about that. This is a call that has been made repeatedly by the progressive HOD in the committee. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the lives of our young people in our province are at stake, and the DA government cannot continue to fail them in this way. The DA failure to prioritize youth development and address social ills is a betrayal of our young people. We reiterate our calls for the MEC to develop a comprehensive plan to address the root causes of gang violence and other social ills to plague our youth. We also call on the MEC to make investment into programs that will help young people to stay out of gangs and get them on the right track. When compared to other provinces like Gauteng and KZN, when it comes to programs and funding for youth development, the Western Cape is a toddler that cannot compete with the big boys. The DA-run Western Cape government is not serious about youth development. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. This department has an in-depth reach into almost all our civil society organizations, the NGO sector, and all communities throughout the province. Creating a safer and healthier society requires the active participation of the public. Our department has public awareness campaigns to engage citizens through various platforms to be active citizens by fostering a culture of responsibility and collective action through which we can create a stronger community bond to combat social issues. The department has aligned most of its programs and is fully committed to curbing social ills and gang activities. We believe that by focusing on youth empowerment, education, collaboration, arts and culture, and evidence-informed approaches, we can make significant strides towards a safer and more prosperous society. Webb Du Bois said, "The problem in any community cursed with crime is not punishment of the criminals, but the preventing of the young from being trained to crime." And that is exactly what our program's doing. I welcome any feedback and collaboration from the esteemed member Barnes of this assembly and reaffirm our dedication to the well-being of the people we serve. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister Marais. That brings us to the end of interpellations. We now, in terms of Rule 202, move over to questions as printed on the question paper. Just to remind our members that there are 4 opportunities for follow-up questions, but the Honourable Member who posed the question will get the first opportunity. I now recognise the Honourable Premier. Is that correct? Can I just check if the Premier is online? There we go. Thank you. Got me nervous there, Premier. Premier, Premier, I'll give you a breather. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. And thank you very much to the Honourable Lecker for the question. 2 parts. What was the reason for this government not filling vacancies and vacant funded posts? Well, it's not really so. We have a workforce of 88,000 staff members in this province. There is something called turnover. And of course there will, and I'll give you the numbers on some of those posts that are not filled, but there's obviously a turnover. People get promoted and vacancies occur. There's retirements and vacancies occur. People move between departments and vacancies occur. And people leave and they go to other governments or other jobs and vacancies occur.
And when these vacancies occur, we've got processes of filling them. Of course, at the same time, we must also understand that there's a very difficult financial situation that we face, not only now, it has been over the last while and I see this question comes all the way from 2014, recessions, pandemics, and right now, which is almost a recession with zero growth, unfunded jobs increases, salary increases that we have to find the money for. So we've got to be very, very careful as to how and the processes if there are any unnecessary posts to be filled. But in the second part of the question, so if I go back to 2014, 2,310. If I go to 2014-15, 2,821. Then 1,967, then 1,299, then 1,548, then 1,907. That's 2018-19. 1920, 1,655. 2021, 320. 2021-22, 288. And then this year, 22-23, we have at present 718. Remember that I'm not sure the exact number, but the 526 is the education department, which is the biggest number of the 718. And obviously within those numbers are also the teacher support, the youth program through the presidency. And I would estimate that's at least 400 of those posts. But if you come back to 718, which is the current unfunded posts out of 88,000, we're talking about less than 1%. If I look at last year at 228, way less than 1%. The previous year, 2020 to 2021, 320 vacancies, way less than even 1%. So I think on average, a pretty good performance for an organization with 88,000 employees.
Thank you, Premier. Honourable Lacko, do you want to respond with a question? Honourable Lacko, are you in line? No. Honourable Said, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and my thanks to the Premier for the response. I just wanted to know, hopefully the Premier will agree that one vacancy is one vacancy too much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. How does it make sense to have a grand growth for jobs plan with so much of fanfare? We saw there was a big press conference last week, and his government, not his department.
Order, members. Order, members, you may proceed.
Can I proceed? I know Member Mania is a little bit jealous that even the DA staff come to my press conferences, but that's fine.
Order.
Not his department, because his department is responsible, Deputy Speaker, for filling all provincial government vacant posts. His government does not fill vacant posts properly. Surely fighting for jobs starts there, Honourable Deputy Speaker, in his own administration. What can the Premier say to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Premier.
First of all, I want to say to the Honourable Said, thanks for that follow-up question. Luckily, the Education Department came to his press conference, otherwise nobody would have been there. The second point, I
Premier,
think that
take your seat, please. Take your seat, please.
As a matter of fact, the Education Department was not there, but I know that the Premier struggles to divide between party and state. The DA researchers were there and we welcome them there. He must get his facts right and must not mislead the House. We know the DA always gets confused between party and state. They don't respect the democracy.
Honourable members, Honourable Bartman, you're probably going to just say what I'm going to say. Yes. You may begin.
Speaker, my point of order is if the member brings something up, the Premier has a right to respond to it. The Premier is busy responding.
Okay. Honourable members,
busy responding.
All of a sudden, the decorum of the House went into complete disarray. If everybody could just contain themselves, Honourable Premier, you may proceed with what your response is. And that was not a point of order.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I would really like the leeway to the next time that the Honourable Saeed, when he's speaking, to just stand up and make a debating point and just reply ad infinitum. I mean, he's the chief whip of the opposition. He should know the rules of this House. So that was pretty unruly. But I want to absolutely disagree with him. I think that less than 1% vacancy rate is world class. I don't think that any organization with a staff number of 88,000 could find better efficiency than that. So I absolutely disagree with that point that he was making. I think it shows an efficient government, a system that works. But I do want to say to him that going forward, we are going to find it very, very difficult to not only full post. I'm pretty certain you're going to start seeing national governments starting to put pressure across all governments to say you need to actually start slowing down or not filling posts because of the financial situation that South Africa finds itself in. So exactly what the honourable member is saying is going to be exactly the opposite, driven primarily by total ANC failure of the economy, of jobs. The only thing they're successful in is making sure that we have a high unemployment rate. They're very good at that. They're very good at losing jobs through national policy and national positioning. So he shouldn't come here and talk about jobs and efficiency. I think these numbers speak for itself. World class.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Fry.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It appears that some of this House does not understand the full strategy of the full employment strategy of this government. Given of course that our honourable members of the House have a theatre company because everybody's acting in national government. So I'd like to ask the question to the Premier. What exactly, can you please outline the employment strategy, the employment and recruitment strategy for the House? Thank you.
Thank you, Premier.
So, of course, the strategy of this government for our own employees would be to employ the best that we could employ to offer the best services to the citizens of this province at all times. And I must say that I'm hugely proud of all 88,000 staff members in this province who really get up every single day to make the biggest difference they can on our health front, on our education front, in all of our departments across this province. And again, coming back to what this question talks about, what this question comes to talk about is, are we, and it talks about vacancies. I think that the vacancy rate, and if you actually have a look at the graph on the piece of paper, which reflects on those numbers that I've been speaking about, it's the perfect trajectory. It's the perfect one. And I think the balance to staff, to production of what we've got within our budgets is outstanding. The lowest COE to delivery of services in South Africa. Go and have a look at provinces like Limpopo, where you see the COE, which is the ANC's employment strategy. The problem is that they don't have any money at the end of the month to put diesel in the vehicle to go and fetch the patient. They don't have any money in the bank because it's all gone to COE, and the percentage COE to delivery is pathetically out of kilter. There should actually be somebody measuring those standards, because that's, again, where this government and the people, these citizens that work for this government do such an outstanding job in offering services to the citizens of this province.
Thank you, Premier. Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, through you, I want to ask the Premier, how many of these posts remains unfilled for the entire year, and how has this impacted generally the work of government? Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. No, that's the Premier. The Premier can choose how.
That was the question.
Yeah.
And I'll say again, at this right now, well, let's just go back 3 years, 320. 320 unfilled posts. You said how many? I've already said that. 320 in 2020-21. That's how many unfilled posts out of 87,000 staff. In 2021-22, 228 out of 88,000 staff. And in 2022-23, 780 as I stand here today. I promise you tomorrow, it'll be a different number. It could be 623. We'll see. I don't know, because it depends as someone retires or a new person comes into the province. But right now, and constantly over the last 3 years, way less than 1%.
Thank you very much. The Premier has responded. There's a last opportunity. Anybody want to take that opportunity? Over to you, Honourable Dugmore.
Thank you. Thank you
Order.
very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the question that I would like to ask is prefaced by the fact that there would be a general agreement that we want public servants to be appointed who are able to do the job. What I would like to ask the Premier, given the unrepresentativity in particularly your own department, with one African person out of almost 60 senior management, are you implying that there are no competent African people to fill those posts? And if you look at the Employment Equity Amendment, it aims to ensure that both coloured and African public servants or private sector employees who are inadequately represented in this province will actually benefit, because that's what the amendment says. So in that regard, are you telling us and this House today that there are no capable African and coloured senior servants to make sure that these departments in our province are properly representative?
Over to you, Premier.
No, I'm not implying.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the first question. The second question has been withdrawn. The third question has been withdrawn. We move over to question 4. I recognise the Honourable Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Currently, the transport legislation only allows for the registration of minibus taxi associations and their members or operators. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Vimby, would you like to respond to another question?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Firstly, we must agree that the real challenge is in fact that there are insufficient schools in poor working class communities, and that quality of education is compromised due to many factors like overcrowding and shortages of teachers, which then forces parents to enroll children in school far away from their homes. There are many illegal activities taking place in the current unregistered scholar transport system, like unlicensed drivers, massive overload of children in these vehicles, and children being driven on the back of buggies. And I would like to ask from the MEC, how will regulation of this emerging sector and registering of the learner transport operators help improve the safety of learners on the road?
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Learner transport operators can apply for operating licenses directly from the provincial regulatory entity, as long as they have a contract with the school or educational institution or obtain a letter of approval from a school principal for transportation services. We also had an engagement with them about 3 weeks ago, where we talked about how to apply for permit and where they should go. And I think if your vehicle is roadworthy, you have the required vehicle that fits in terms of the law, there should be no reason why they can't apply for permits, so they can become legalized and obviously be much safer on our roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Any further follow-up questions? I recognise the Honourable.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, all good. Thank you. With regard to the regulation of learner transportation, Minister, within a regulated environment, are you of the belief that if a certain requirements are laid down in legislation, for example, no learners should be transported on open buckies and those other related issues, that it will contribute to safer transportation for our children? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable America. Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I concur 100% with my colleague, and we've seen the horrible results of individuals not complying with rules and regulations as laid down by government. We saw that horrible accident or crash in Mitchell's Plain a few weeks ago that claimed the life of 6 little angels. That is exactly because individuals' failure to comply with the rules and regulations set down by government. So there needs to be regulations, there needs to be laws, and all of us have to comply by these laws and regulations because that's how normal societies function.
Thank you very much. Honourable Bimbi.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Minister, in light of the many accidents that have claimed lives of children in the province, including those who were on their way to school, and given the fact that the registration of learner transport operators will bring many benefits for the learners and parents, when can we expect the MEC to engage its counterpart in education to ensure that this process takes place soon?
Thank you very much. Minister.
Thank you. I constantly talk with my colleague in education about matters relating to learner transport. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further? Yes, Honourable America.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, what role do you think parents could play in ensuring that the children are not exposed to dangerous transportation options that are presented to them? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. And it's interesting that you have that question because our discussion today was about connected mobility, transport. The interpellation was about trains and PRASA. And parents are rightfully used the most. Times are tough, load shedding, the economy, jobs are not being created as fast as we can in the country. Transnet is not working. People have difficulty in spending their money. And they try to find the cheapest mode of transport to get the children to school. The trains are not working. The biggest line, the central line, still not working. So parents then opted for the next available option, which is cheaper taxis or learner transport. And so we urge our parents, we ask you, we know it's difficult out there, but please make sure that your drivers got a relevant PDP, the vehicle are roadworthy, and they don't force children into what we've seen at a roadblock 2 weeks ago in Mitchell's Plain, 16 children being forced into an Avanza. It is really difficult. I know parents don't do it willfully, but we implore on them to please find the safest mode of transport for your children to ensure they get home safely in the evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move over to the next question. Question 5. I recognise Minister Wenger.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Nationally, unemployment and specifically youth unemployment is unacceptably high, with far too many young people denied the opportunities they need to actively participate in the economy and to prosper. The painful legacy of apartheid, combined with a failing national government, has exacerbated this trend. The escalating energy and logistics crises, failing infrastructure, including transport infrastructure, and wide-scale corruption has meant the economy is not growing and creating opportunities for young citizens. It's deeply concerning to me that South Africa is determined to make the wrong policy choices, incapable of taking the decisions required to move us forward and realize economic freedom through participation in the economy. Against this backdrop, the Western Cape government seeks to improve access to economic opportunities and contribute to employability through a range of interventions, including enabling people to access opportunities through developing skills and productivity, nurturing local expertise and entrepreneurship, enabling micro and small-sized enterprises to participate in industry value chains, and supporting self-employment. This is particularly relevant as sustainably improving the quality of life of citizens requires residents from different walks of life being able to harness opportunities created by investment-driven economic growth. The Western Cape has a lower unemployment rate than South Africa because we take our responsibility to create opportunities very seriously. According to the most recent quarterly labour force survey released in May of 2023, between Q1 of 2022 and Q1 of 2023, there were 360,000 more jobs in the Western Cape. This is an increase of 15.7% year on year and is the highest percentage increase in employment in South Africa. According to the same publication, the unemployment rate in the province also decreased on both the official and expanded definitions. The official unemployment rate in the Western Cape decreased from 25.2% in Q1 of 2022 to 21.6% in Q1 of 2023. The expanded unemployment rate in the Western Cape also decreased from 29% in Q1 of 2022 to 25.9% in Q1 of 2023. Overall, the expanded unemployment rate in the Western Cape at 25.9% is almost half the national unemployment rate, which is at 42.4%, and 16.5 percentage points lower than the national expanded unemployment rate. While I welcome the fact that the Western Cape has the lowest unemployment rate, there are still far too many people without jobs, and we have a lot more work to do, which is why we've launched the bold new economic action plan, Growth for Jobs, which we've debated earlier, and which sets out clear targets for each of the 7 key focus areas our economy needs to succeed, so we can improve the number of opportunities available to residents. And I can assure you that we are determined to do so. A key focus of the strategy is to ensure that we enable the private sector to create pathways for young citizens to access opportunities. And I refer the Honourable Member specifically to PFA 7 on skills and employability, which happens to be the longest chapter in the strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Karma, are you wanting to do a follow-up? No, I see, I recognise, no, that's fine. I recognise Honourable Windvogel and then Honourable Barnes. You may proceed, Honourable Windvogel.
Dankie, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, die DEA gurus het volwaardig reg gekry om kleerlinge en Afrikaners te laat optog teen die Employment Equity Amendment wat hulle self tog gaan bevoordeel. Wow, DEA, julle is brutal om ons mense so te mislei. But nevertheless, Deputy Speaker, I'm glad that the MEC has acknowledged these disparities. These disparities are also part of the positive factors of crime and many other social ills. The DA has fiercely opposed the Employment Equity Amendment, which would go a long way to benefit coloured and Africans in the province without putting any alternative in place. I want to ask from the MEC, given the fact that youth unemployment in the Western Cape is black, why is the government not supporting national government measures to address this crisis? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, I certainly wouldn't look to ANC governments for solutions because I can tell you where the rates of black unemployment is higher. Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Free State, Northwest, Mpumalanga and Limpopo. Thank you.
You just
Thank
took
you.
money of national
No,
government, Department of
Honourable
Small
Member,
Business.
Honourable
Don't
Member,
lie.
order. Honourable Member, order. Honourable Barnes, before you go on, I had recognised Honourable Christians before, and then I will give you the opportunity. Over to you, Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the question is, you know, when parents struggle to send their children to tertiary institutions, and then when they graduate, everybody's happy, but they cannot find a job. I want to know from the Minister, what is the department doing to help in this regard? I thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Apologies, Deputy Speaker. Could the member just repeat? I missed.
Yes, sure.
Was it the graduate unemployment? Okay, all right. Okay, and thanks to the Honourable Member, he did raise these questions in the debate as well. So I welcome the opportunity to respond. So we did research why graduate unemployment is so high. You know, we do know that our economic growth is constrained in part by a shortage of skills. So we say if we have graduates, why do we have a shortage of skilled labour? We know that skilled employment increased 17% nationally and 19% in the Western Cape since 2012. And unemployment levels among citizens with advanced qualifications are broadly in line with benchmark economies, but unemployment amongst unskilled and semi-skilled job seekers is exceptionally high. So that's where we differ to benchmark economies. But due to increasing competition amongst employers over these scarce skills, highly skilled workers have experienced the sharpest increase in wages over the last 10 years. But despite increasing unemployment levels among South Africans with tertiary education, so that's from 10% to 15% since 2006, levels of joblessness among graduates remain largely comparable, as mentioned. But this is in part due to misalignment with the skills needs of employers versus what universities are producing. So, for example, the demand for science and engineering and technology graduates is high, but the number of qualified graduates in this area has decreased. While the demand for humanities graduates is low, but the number of these graduates has increased. So it's a mismatch between what the economy needs and the kind of graduates that the universities are producing.
Thank you. Honourable Barnes and then Honourable Murray.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Through you, Deputy Speaker, I want to ask the Minister, given that her government recently launched the growth for jobs strategy aiming to create 600,000 jobs, how will the strategy benefit coloured, African and Indian people in the province? Are there targeted programs addressing these systematic barriers that racial groups face in accessing employment and career advancement opportunities in this province? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Growth for Jobs strategy is a strategy which enables the whole economy to grow and create jobs so that everybody can participate in the economy. We understand that it's the private sector that creates jobs, and therefore we're trying to enable the private sector to do that by getting the fundamentals for growth right. So there are various ways that we're tackling that, and we've got 7 key areas that we're looking at to do that. And as mentioned, the 7th priority area is about employability and skills development, as well as entrepreneurship, so that unemployed South Africans have the opportunity to either gain employment or start their own business. But we also know that there are structural dysfunctions in the economy, and we need to target these as well. And that's what the Growth for Jobs strategy absolutely does. And in particular, it has a spatial lens for where these needs are most acute. So we are specifically targeting economic opportunities where in areas where people live, but also being able to match through the connected economy people to jobs themselves. So the answer is yes. And I would encourage the member to read the strategy in its entirety, and then it will become clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Murray.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my question through you to the Minister is, what is the Western Cape government doing differently to enable access to opportunities for young people in the province? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. So I have in part answered this around PFA 7, which is around skills development. I was just looking now, we've allocated 99 million Rand towards the skills priority in this financial year. And we're focusing on experiential learning. So we do this, and I'll just highlight 2 initiatives. For example, our artisan development program to create access to opportunities, which is particularly important for the stimulation of the township economy. We're also working together with the BPO sector, in which we seek to have 5,000 unemployed youth matched with job opportunities in the financial year. So those 5,000 youth will receive a 12-month on-the-job learnership within a BPO company, which will include a monthly stipend. And after completing the program, each beneficiary will receive an accredited qualification equivalent to an NQF level 3. And what's impressive about the track record of this program is that 80% of these learners end up in formal employment when the program concludes. So this just shows that if we can partner with the private sector, we can really make meaningful gains. And that's why we will continue to partner with key stakeholders in the private sector so that we can expand on this kind of program. Also then, in building entrepreneurs, we have our SMME Booster Fund, which provides support to organizations that support SMMEs based in our province. And we have particular specific focuses for the SMME program. So, for example, youth-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and township-owned businesses are the focus areas for this year's SMME Booster Fund. Another great partnership we have is with the ICANN Centre in Elsie's River, which is about digital enablement and providing digital skills to help young people with skills programs. To date, the centre has had more than 94,000 visitors and has provided close to 14,000 training opportunities. And these are combinations, some are free, some are donor funded, and some are paid for courses. And any young person can visit the center to access those qualifications. Then we also have the Provincial Treasury's Bursary Program, which was launched this week. And we encourage young people to access tertiary education and address the skills shortages, which I've just spoken to Honourable Christians about, in the areas of economics, accounting, finance, and auditing. And as mentioned, open on Monday this week. I think I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. That brings us to the end of question 5. We move over to question 6. I recognise the Honourable Minister Fernandes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and thank you to the Honourable de Villiers for the question. A public comment process on the proposed site ran from the 14th of June to the 14th of July 2023. 28 submissions in support of and against the development were made. This includes one hard copy petition signed by 250 residents. Objections were based on various concerns, and all the submissions will now be considered before a final decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable de Villiers, do you want to follow up?
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. And the Good Party, we try to offer relevant suggestions for the House to consider in making sensible decisions so that we proactively can, and for the benefit of the people whom we serve, can make decisions. And so our response today comes from that perspective. Firstly, let's forget for a minute that as we speak, there's a group of community members that have spearheaded the drive against this shelter on grounds that they don't want it. And the numbers that a great deal more than 28 that you mentioned in your press release outside this building protesting. Has the ministry liaised with those living on the streets of the CBD and District 6 who are meant to benefit from this shelter and asked them for their opinions? Because my office had. And I can guarantee you that those you say you have a responsibility towards are also not supportive of your proposed shelter. And the objections are well founded on the experience they have already had in the shelters, which you fund throughout the city.
Honourable de Villiers, please get to your question.
The model that was being developed in 2021 for the Robbie New York site was for a traditional space and where individuals were to given agency over creating their own best future. Our question is, have we copied this presentation, and did we go to those people and find out how do they feel about where we want to place them or they want to be placed, and what inputs can they make to make it a better living for themselves?
Thank you very much, Honourable de Villiers. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I think it is important to set the record straight to the Honourable de Villiers. There were 28 submissions that were handed in and a petition with 250 signatures. So those are the facts, and that is what was dropped off at my office on a Friday afternoon by a small group of people. Regarding the site, as I said, there was a public participation process. And if I am correct in understanding the Honourable de Villiers, he is asking now that we actually interview the homeless people to ask them where they would like to be. The challenge is that we have 3 sites identified in the city. Robin New York is not a suitable site, and that is because there is asbestos on that site. And if anyone can recall, we had removed asbestos from this very chamber. It is a specific process that could take months, and also it would push out the timelines to get a shelter up and running. The idea, and here I need to say many people are crying out, let's do something for the homeless. But sadly, when it comes to identifying a site, it then becomes an issue. No, it's fine. And there was a reference to NIMBYism, not in my backyard. But some of the comments would have said a negative impact on property values due to degradation of the area, increased foot traffic, crime and grime. So NIMBYism is not limited to a community. It also talks about a creation of a concentration of homeless people in the area and impacting cleanliness, aesthetics and safety. A negative impact on safety of residents in terms of crime and substance abuse. So whether we locate the site in District 6 or whether we locate it in Clifton or wherever it might be, everyone will have a right to object. There were support, there was support indicated as well. However, the dilemma we face, Deputy Speaker, is the fact that even if we can assist 100 vulnerable people off the street and allow them a hot shower, a place to sleep, food, psychosocial support, it's 100 more beds that become available. However, we can, since we are engaging in the interrogating the submissions, if it is a request, as the Honourable de Villiers has said, have we engaged the homeless people there? I do believe some of the homeless people there are former residents from District 6. So at the end of the day, we would need to weigh up what is the most cost effective and what ultimately will work. Whilst property owners have rights, homeless people too have rights as enshrined in the Constitution. And it then becomes everyone wants to get rid of homeless people, move them somewhere, but where do we move them to if nobody wants them in a specific community? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise that Honourable Sayed.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I'm a bit concerned with the discourse that's coming, particularly, and we got that from the Premier when the issue was raised as a motion and now from the MEC. In response to, I think, what is a solutions-driven question and concern by the Good Party and Member de Villiers on this particular matter. This area is in my constituency as well. It must not be seen, and I think the kind of response we are getting is that residents who are objecting have a problem with homeless people. That's not the issue. The issue here is, has serious consideration been made around other sites that are available, particularly amongst communities that are already advantaged? Because this is a disadvantaged community. Have they taken into account restorative justice as well? The fact that there is a community, District 6 community, have been without their homes, they are moving back, that they've also earmarked that particular site for something else relating to their own community development as well. And we must be very careful how we respond on this matter. And also residents, I think, also need to, our responsibilities to make sure when we're engaging with residents as well, that when objecting, the language of objection also needs to be very, very clear. So I think, and I would like to know from the MEC if the petition has been taken into account, how far are we, and have they done a thorough study of the numbers of objections? Because for me, the 28 does not tally from the kind of screenshots we've got in our possession of registers and signatures. It's much more than 28. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. To the Honourable Sayed, I can only confirm that we could count what was delivered, hand delivered and signed for on the day. There were 28 appeals by residents and there was a petition that had 250 signatures on it. In terms of other sites, we looked at the former government garage building in Hope Street. There were also 2 empty plots in Woodstock on Mountain Road and Earl Street. The Hope Street would carry a higher cost than Tafelberg, and that was possibly because it also still needs to be rezoned. whereas the current site does not require rezoning and can be retrofitted very quickly to ensure that the vulnerable are housed accordingly. The two Woodstock sites are undeveloped, which requires a construction, and that, of course, would then push out the timelines, and that would then become a long-term project. Many of the homeless don't want to be located too far away from the CBD because they live and they work in the CBD. And we have tried and even spoken with homeless people who live in shelters outside of the city. They commute into the city, and many people actually sleep in the city from Monday through Friday and then go home on a weekend. So the above mentioned are the only remaining available sites that are owned by the Department of Infrastructure in the CBD area that have sufficient space to accommodate a shelter. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions and follow-ups? No. All right, thank you. We'll move over to question 7. I now recognize the Honourable Minister Mania.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and thank you to the honourable member for putting this important question on the whole matter of the safe transport of learners. Our department provides transport to 65,785 learners every day via our learner transport scheme. We can therefore answer the member's question about safety measures in relation to our contracted learner transport vehicles. As members are aware, private transport by parents or transport hired by parents falls within the remit of the Department of Mobility. And my colleague, the Honourable Ricardo Mackenzie, spoke on this matter just a few minutes ago. In terms of our learner transport scheme, our department implements various processes, of course, to ensure that learners on the learner transport scheme are transported in accordance with the legislative prescripts. The required documents detailed in the bidding documents are provided by contractors and verified during an evaluation process. And when a new contract is entered into for a particular route, the following is required. The contractor submits certified and valid license and roadworthy certificates for each of the approved vehicles on the route. Sufficient seating capacity is available for the transportation of all the approved learners on the route. All vehicles contracted by the WCED, of course, are required to go for a roadworthy inspection every 6 months for the duration of the contracted period, and a monthly report must be submitted to the vehicle testing coordinator at head office, listing the vehicles tested and the new license and roadworthy certificates within a particular month. But Deputy Speaker, to further ensure safety, unannounced vehicle inspections can be conducted in response to the internal or external queries relating to alleged non-compliance by the learner transport scheme contractors. Scheduled route and vehicle inspections are conducted on a regular basis with the aim of inspecting all routes within the district over a period of time. And a route inspection must, of course, include the inspection of the school administrations of the routes that, of course, service a school. Schools are required also to monitor the delivery of the service on the specific routes on a regular basis to ensure that the contracted and correct vehicles are used and that the service is delivered safely and with the conditions of the contract. Furthermore, Deputy Speaker, principals or their delegated officials are required to undertake regular inspections of vehicles as they arrive at school and to address any discrepancies with the contractors, requiring them to remedy any non-compliance. And of course, in cases where there is persistent non-compliance, schools are required to inform the relevant learner transport officials at the district so that action can be taken. Should, of course, the roadworthiness of any vehicle assigned to a learner transport scheme route be questionable at any time, a vehicle test can be considered immediately. And of course, when it comes to non-compliance with contractual obligations, which I've set out, Honourable Member, in some detail, including, of course, overloading of vehicles, leads firstly to written warnings and then eventually the termination of the contract in cases of persistent non-compliance. And I hope that that goes some way to alleviate the concern of the Honourable Member. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honourable de Villiers.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I just want to know from the Minister if he's aware of the accident on the Dussenberg Road this week, Monday, where a pupil were airlifted and many others were taken to hospital. And if so, what is in the pipeline for him and his department to actually speed up the safety of our children? Maybe to get them closer to schools, closer to their homes, or something like this. I don't know. That's exactly what we want to know. What is in place so that we can minimize these accidents, please?
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you for that question, Honourable Member. I'm not familiar with all the details of the case to which you refer, and I would urge you to put a written question on the matter so that I can provide you with a detailed response. I would go further and also say to the Honourable Member that in addition to the measures which I set out in quite some detail, the Department of Mobility, the Department of Education, and indeed the law enforcement agencies within the City of Cape Town and within municipalities across our province do cooperate and coordinate law enforcement operations. The Honourable Member would possibly not be aware that just over a period of 5 months this year, there have been about 39 law enforcement operations that have led to about 6,000 fines and indeed 165 impoundments, not of course of learner transport scheme buses, but of private learner transport operators here in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognise Honourable Sayed.
Deputy Speaker, thank you very much, and thank you to Member de Villiers for the question. What is the Minister's view regarding the real cause for the learner transport problem, beyond just looking at the symptoms? Does the Minister agree that yes, we need to ensure safety of these vehicles? There must be compliance, but that's dealing with a symptomatic issue. Does the Minister agree that the lack of schools in our communities, thereby forcing learners to travel far and wide, that is one of the major factors contributing to this particular problem that we're sitting with? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I do agree that when we look at this problem, we need to examine the root causes. And I've said it before, that there are too few schools, and that's precisely for that reason that we have launched the Rapid School Build Program, where we are building schools not faster, and we are building more schools than ever before. The Honourable Member will know that this year we plan to build 21 schools, and we will be spending 2.9 billion rand on expanding access to education here in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Firstly, thank you, Minister, for the response. Deputy Speaker, I want to know that firstly, many learners once used to use the railway to get to and from schools, but with the neglect of vital infrastructure by PRASA, rail has become an inefficient and unreliable means actually of transport for many who must now rely on road-based transportation to get to their classes. So under the tabled Western Cape Provincial Powers Bill that seeks to take over control over rail in the province and be devolved to the provincial government, which I firmly believe will be able to fix some of our railways and our problems and get our people moving again. I would like to find out from the Minister what effect a working railway network would have on the safety and efficiency of learner transport in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I mean, there's no doubt that a safe and functional train service would assist our learners getting to school because it would provide alternative modes of transport for learners to get to school. But of course, because of the failures of national government, that is exactly what we do not have in our province. And it's precisely for that reason that we need to devolve powers, particularly powers of rails, so that the province and the city can more effectively operate the rail service, provide greater options for learners, and ease the pressure on learner transport in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further last attempts? No? Thank you. That brings us to the end of questions for today. We now move over to statements by members in terms of Rule 145, and I recognize the DA.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. As we kick off Women's Month, we must face the stark reality that the ANC government's promises to combat gender-based violence have been nothing more than empty rhetoric. Despite President Ramaphosa's second presidential summit on gender-based violence and femicide, we continue to witness the harrowing toll of GBV and crime in our communities. It is disheartening to see how little tangible progress have been made in the fight against the scourge since the summit. Countless women in our country still suffer from the trauma, scars, and loss of life caused by GBV, while the ANC remains complacent and ineffectual. The ANC government's track record speaks for itself. Our country's women are left to endure violence, fear, and harassment due to the ANC's inability to take decisive action. This government's negligence and lack of genuine concern for women's safety have crippled our nation. Deputy Speaker, while the ANC boasts about its promises, the reality is that women in South Africa need more than just talk. They deserve a government that takes concrete actions and implements effective policies to protect them from the horrors of GBV. In stark contrast to the ANC's empty promises, the DA-run Western Cape has taken proactive steps to address GBV through initiatives like the court-watching brief units, funding for shelters, and empowering educational programs. We are actively working to make a difference in the lives of women. Tackling GBV requires real commitment, not just during Women's Month, but every single day of the year. It is time for the ANC to stop using convenient campaigns and catchy slogans, and the EFF to stop advocating for the killing of people and start prioritizing the safety and the rights of women. As we celebrate Women's Month, let us recommit ourselves to relentlessly defend our women.
Thank you.
The DA will continue to stand as the only party dedicated.
Thank you, Chief Whip.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Dugmore, we don't usually question the content or the substance of the statements. It is the prerogative of yourselves to be able to put whatever you want in statements, and very often from both sides of the House, the statements can be quite out of this world. So I understand, but that was very loud. So interjections are welcome, but telling people they're talking nonsense is not parliamentary. So thank you very much. I recognize the ANC.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I can hear you. You may proceed.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I rise today to speak about the serious allegations of tender fraud bid rigging and other irregularities on security contracts in the Western Cape government and other DA-led municipalities. Allegations have surfaced in a court application involving Securimed Response CC, which is alleged to have misrepresented information when it submitted a bid for multi-million rand security tender issued by Saldanha Bay local municipality. These allegations are deeply concerning and raise serious questions about the integrity of procurement process in the Western Cape. If these allegations are true, it would mean that the public money has been wasted on contracts that were awarded to the wrong companies or on contracts that were not delivered as promised. This is not the first time that the DA is accused of tender irregularities. The 282 million security contract awarded to the state capture-linked Royal Security is also being challenged in court for significant irregularities in the tender process. We echo the concerns raised by the ANC Provincial Secretary Neville Delport that open-close, while we trust the legal process, we cannot overlook the matter of poor oversight. We condemn any negligence or indifference shown in overseeing the proper use of public resources, close quote. We further call on the Premier to launch a full and independent investigation into these allegations of tender fraud, bid rigging and other irregularities on security contracts in the Western Cape, including those awarded to companies linked to the known high gang flyers. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I recognise the EFF. No. Thank you. We move on. I recognise the Democratic Alliance.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it was Brian Tracy who said, and I quote, "The distance between dreams and reality is called action." We all have dreams. We dream of giving the best of ourselves to our loved ones. We dream of a better society, being healthy, having everything we need to thrive, and leaving a legacy that continues long after we have left this earth. In the Western Cape, that dream of a better society, a safer society, a society where everyone thrives is that much closer to the introduction of the Western Cape Provincial Powers Bill. This bill is not only about addressing the failures of ANC national government or creating an overarching framework for which the Western Cape government to assert its existing constitutional, legislative, and executive powers. It's also about bringing effective service delivery as close as possible to the people and ultimately realizing the dream of a better society we all deserve. Honorable Deputy Speaker, that society would be one where everyone is safe, that everyone can have freedom of movement via public transport, that there is a steady supply of electricity, that everyone has meaningful work, and that we can export our goods and services freely through an efficient supply chain. That society would not be governed by a regime that is solely out of touch with reality, but one which cares about its citizens, listens to them, and acts in its best interests. That society would benefit from a government that always acts with its citizens' well-being foremost in mind and does all it can to provide opportunities for citizens to thrive. That, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is why the Provincial Powers Bill has been tabled. This is about bringing effective service delivery closest to the people through a capable government and thereby bridging the gap between dreams and reality through action. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Fry. I recognise Good.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The city became embroiled in what is turning out to be a full-scale battle with taxi organizations. Good Party supports the fact that law enforcement agencies had to be called in to contain the reaction to the impoundments of minibus taxis. The reason that this matter has escalated as it has, being the way our law enforcement agencies chose to conduct themselves on Tuesday afternoon when they released stun grenades irresponsibly into the midst of commuters, and which was then reciprocated with live ammunition being used by taxi drivers. The brute force.
Proceed, Honourable de Villiers.
The brute force that we learned from our apartheid past is what has led to an environment that is threatening to the safety and security of innocent members of the public and school children. We must find ways to act preventively and proactively and with civility if we are serious about stopping violence in the Western Cape. We haven't heard the minister come up with any sensible and any practical solutions to this crisis.
Thank you very much. Honourable Member, I recognise the ACDP.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I was informed by the ACDP councillor in Mossel Bay Municipality, Councillor Jeanette Gous, that the mayor and the DA councillors withheld critical information relating to the remuneration of the municipal manager in a council meeting the 30th of June 2022. The mayor informed councillors that there was a waiver obtained with the age, but did not disclose what he has done with the appointment of the salary level of the municipal manager. Deputy Speaker, I want to bring under the attention of this House, yesterday, Councillor Gous with other opposition councillors laid a criminal charge against the mayor and the DA caucus for fraud in Mossel Bay. By the mayor's own admission, the mayor stated on record that he disregarded the instructions of the Minister of Kokta and also disregarded the instructions of Minister Vidal to remunerate the municipal manager at the highest salary scale, contrary to the instructions what he received. The ACDP councillor also have proof that the DA caucus was fully informed of this fact. The spokesman of Minister Vidal told the Mossel Bay Advertiser on the 7th of July 2023 that they have started the investigation, but were informed by the Speaker of the Mossel Bay Council on the 27th of July that they have not received anything from Minister Vidal's office. So, Deputy Speaker, what the people of Mossel Bay want to know is the investigation, did it start, and when will they have a reply? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise the ANC.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The ANC welcomes the launch of the Energy One-Stop Shop and the Energy Resilience Fund by the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition, Mr. Ibrahim Patel, which seeks to mitigate the impact of the energy crisis. The Energy One-Stop Shop and Energy Resilience Fund rolled out by the Minister is a new facility which is put in place to help the government fast-track energy projects. This effort by the Minister adds on the overall efforts of the government to refocus resources and increase the supply of energy available in the grid through additional renewable energy. It is of paramount importance that we note that this step is one that will alleviate the challenges faced by the industry in relation to the energy crisis experienced by the country. The step of the one-stop shop, which is a commitment by the government to ensure it creates a flexible business environment and further fast-tracking investment in electricity from the private sector for a stable energy future. We must commend the presidency in all its efforts explored in putting in simpler processes or measures which are specifically focused on addressing the resources made available that seek to address blockages in our economy. With all of these measures outlined by Minister Patel, the ANC notes and welcomes these measures as they will assist in the fight against the energy crisis. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Member. I recognise the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the Sishen Saldanha Railway Line, also known as the Ore Export Line, is an essential 861-kilometer long heavy-haul railway line in South Africa connecting the iron ore mines near Sishen in the Northern Cape to the port of Saldanha Bay in the Western Cape. This critical piece of infrastructure plays a pivotal role in our country's economy by facilitating the transportation of approximately 60 million tons of iron ore annually. This railway line is critical for economic growth, trade and job creation. However, this rail line is facing severe challenges due to the alarming rise in vandalism and cable theft along the railway line. These criminal activities have resulted in the closure of the line, leading to not only inconveniences, but also causing substantial delays in the delivering of the goods. Our passenger rail service is already suffering, and allowing the same fate to befall our freight railway services would be disastrous for our nation's overall transportation network and economy. We cannot afford to let this essential artery of commerce remain closed and unused any longer. Immediately and decisively, action is needed from Transnet. We urge them to prioritize the restoration and reopening of the Sessions-Saldanha railway line without delay. This requires not only repairing the damages caused by vandalism, but also implementing robust security measures to prevent future incidents. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. I recognize the Freedom Front Plus.
Speaker.
Yes, you may proceed.
Okay. The Freedom Front Plus, noting the urgent need for the transfer of certain concurrent powers held currently by both national and provincial government, Schedule 4, to the Western Cape. Due to our superior service delivery, records, sensible policies, intelligent leadership, and economic stability, that this House should therefore request that tertiary education, land reform, and tertiary hospitals should be included in any basket of functions and powers to be devolved to the Western Cape to satisfy the demands of a federal autonomous province or state. This country is heading for an economic implosion, reckless government, corruption, uncontrolled crime, and soon to be food shortages should a AGOA agreement be cancelled. We have a boat which we must stop from sinking. And the Freedom Front want to express our dismay that the functions mentioned does not even make part of the DA's power bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize Al-Jama.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The Al-Jama Party agrees for the need for stricter laws, especially in serious matters and where individuals are repeat offenders. However, we need to take a stand on the new bylaw as a whole, as it has not been well thought through in the implementation thereof. The City of Cape Town's brutal action used on taxi operators were uncalled and smack of the old apartheid system. The DA-led City of Cape Town once again exposed itself for its inhumane treatment when dealing with grievances from the poor masses. The taxi operators have made several appeals to the city not to impound vehicles while their permits are still being processed. But the city reacted with violence against those operators who stood up against the bylaw, stop the impounding of vehicles until the court case is done. The victimization of individuals needs to stop. The current bylaw is draconian in its implementation. Each case needs to be considered on merit and seriousness of the offense. Offenders, especially first offenders, should not be held in detention because of a failing system where detectives only work certain hours. Vehicles should only be impounded if the individual is a repeat offender or the case was serious and where the vehicle was to be used as
in evidence. By impounding vehicles, people are impacted as they are unable to do work or go to work and have to incur extra expenses
Your time
in
is up.
order to go about day-to-day life from work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. I recognize
Bring
the
it
Democratic
enough.
Alliance.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the Global TB Caucus is an international network of parliamentarians with members from more than 150 countries who work collectively and individually to accelerate the fight against the global scourge of TB. Last week, I was privileged to attend that organization's African Summit, along with other elected representatives from across the continent, to discuss, to learn, and to adopt measures which would drive the continental response to a disease which still kills far, far too many on our continent, in our country, and in our province. With a unified international response, it is inevitable that our ability to combat this disease would be improved. But, Deputy Speaker, while I was present at the summit, an official South African delegation was not. South Africa is looked upon as a leader in the field of TB, and our non-attendance was greeted with deep disappointment. To some delegates, a snub. Worse than that, Deputy Speaker, South Africa's political will to eradicate TB was questioned. With the disease a daily reality for so many of our people, missing this opportunity to find common solutions on the issue represents a tragic missed opportunity. Deputy Speaker, South Africa is one of only 4 countries in Africa that has allowed its TB caucuses to fall by the wayside. We have no delegates to take the lead in our international engagements on the issue. The Anglophone African TB Caucus is standing by to help us reform that caucus, but cannot do so unless the national government gets its act together. If it fails to do so, South Africa will be unable to attend the 22 September UN high-level meeting on TB for heads of state.
Finish off.
Another missed opportunity. The government and National Assembly ought to get their house in order and initiate urgent steps to allow South Africa to take its place as a member of the African TB Caucus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Now, in terms of Rule 145(6), I now give one or more members of the executive or the members present an opportunity to respond to any of the members' statements. Are there any members of the executive who want to respond? Honourable Mackenzie, over to you.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I just think it's important to note that the city of Cape Town is not waging a war against anyone. It was brought to the attention by the city that there was an individual in minibus taxis who were alleged to have a firearm, and the city then tried to get the individual out of a taxi. They locked themselves in the taxi. The video footage that you've seen is the officials banging on the taxi, trying to get in and trying to remove the firearm from the individual in the taxi. That is a response to what has happened on that video. It's important to note that all of us are law-abiding citizens who believe in the rule of law, and we all must apply by the rule of law as set out in this country.
Order, members.
And members of political parties as responding and attending to these events are, by the way, members of the City Council, are members of Parliament nationally. We saw ANC MPs giving out statements, but they should change the law. If they don't like the law, change it in national parliament. You are lawmakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further ministers who would like to make a statement? No further? Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of statements by members. In terms of Rule 151, we move over to notices of motion. They're required to be delivered to the Secretary for placing on the order paper. We will move to motions without notice. I would like to inform you that in terms of the new Standing Rule 150 pertaining to motions without notice, condolence and congratulatory was submitted to the Programming Authority prior to this plenary on the 25th of July 2023. Members are reminded that motions without notice pertaining to congratulatory and condolence will not be allowed in the sitting that have not been processed by the Programming Authority. I have been informed that in the Programming Authority meeting of the 25th of July 2023, political parties did submit the names of the honourable members in the desired order of speaking and who had wished to move a motion without notice in this sitting of the House. I will therefore, just for noting and for the purpose of the minutes, call out the honourable members whose names have accordingly been submitted and approved. The following member motions have been approved by the Programming Authority. Honourable Nkondlu, Honourable Kama, Honourable Barnes, Honourable Syed, Honourable Bosman, and Honourable Maseko. I now put the motions duly submitted and approved by the Programming Authority to the House. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The motions will appear in the minutes of the proceeding and in Hansard in each individual member's name as if that member had read them out aloud. I will now afford the opportunity for members to move motions without notice as per the standing rule of 152D. This could include motions without notice that were not approved of in the Programming Authority meeting. Members are reminded that there's a total amount of time of 30 minutes. I now recognize the Honourable Bosman.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I move without notice that the House notes with deep sadness the tragic death of Taufik Williams, who was killed in Mitchells Plain on Sunday. Notes that Mr. Williams had worked as a law enforcement advanced officer and in this way demonstrated his dedication to his community and his dedication to making life safer for all residents of the Western Cape. Notes that Minister Regan Allen has noted Williams as one of LEAP's finest officers. The House should further note that the City of Cape Town has offered a reward of 100,000 Rand for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for this heinous act, and encourage the public to assist in the investigation so that these killers may be found and brought to justice. I so move.
Thank you very much. Are there no objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Kasim. I don't see Honourable Kasim. We're moving over to question.
I am here. I'm online.
There you
Deputy
are.
Speaker. Thank you.
You may proceed.
No problem. I move without notice that the House takes notice that on the 29th of July 2023, the EFF celebrated its 10th anniversary, which was successfully held at the FNB Stadium in Johannesburg. And further note that this anniversary did not go unnoticed as so-called leaders from other political parties such as the DA and the Freedom Front Plus also desperately tried to ride on its wave in order to remain relevant by rushing to police stations, while the other made threats that they will report the party and the CIC Julius Malema to the United Nations Human Rights Council over a struggle song chanted at the event, concluded by stating that these are just two desperate political parties that will use the EFF in their desperate attempts to score cheap political points in their fight for the minority Afrikaner votes. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion being moved? There are objections. The motion will be printed on the order paper. Honourable Kasim, over to you again.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I move without notice that the House take notice that the community of Zwezwe informal settlement in Khayelitsha has been left without electricity following Eskom suspending its operations in the area. This follows an incident that took place on Sunday, the 30th of July, 2023, in which Eskom employees working at the site were robbed at gunpoint of their belongings, along with the company Bakkie, which was also hijacked in the process. These latest events, which robbed the community of Zwezwe from access to proper service delivery due to deeds of criminals, is concerning. It is more concerning when the province spends millions of rands on law enforcement under the so-called safety plan, but then LEAP officers are always nowhere to be found as communities are left at the mercy of criminal syndicates. In conclusion, this is further proof that the so-called safety plan is nothing but just a waste of taxpayers' money.
Thank you. Are there no objections to the motion being moved? There are objections. The motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Class. Not here. Okay, we move over to the, there's two on the honourable class. We move over to Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. On behalf of the ANC, I move without notice that the House expresses grave concern over the alarming rise of gang activity, gun violence in Cape Town. The escalating levels of crime and senseless loss of lives demands urgent attention and immediate action from the DA-led administration. As elected representatives, we have a moral obligation to ensure the safety and well-being of our citizens. The increasing presence of gangs and the proliferation of illegal firearms pose a severe threat to the stability and harmony of our communities. We call upon the DA-led administration to develop and present a comprehensive action plan to address this pressing issue. The plan should focus on effective strategies for crime prevention, intelligence-led policing, community engagement, and collaboration with law enforcement agencies. Additionally, it should incorporate programs to uplift and support at-risk youth, providing alternatives to a life of crime. I so move, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? Yes, there are objections. The motion will be printed on the order paper. Honourable Barnes, over to you again.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. On behalf of the ANC, I move without notice that the House extends our deepest condolences to the victims and families affected by the tragic mass shooting at Boss Tavern in Philippi, Cape Town. This senseless act of violence has left our community in mourning, and we stand in solidarity with those who have lost their loved ones. In light of this heinous incident, we call on the DA-led government to collaborate with Community Policing Forum, CPF, and Law Enforcement Advancement Plan, LEAP, officers to work closely with the South African Police Services and the community to implement comprehensive measures that ensure the safety and security of all residents. It is a shame that the DA-led City of Cape Town has failed to even install CCTV cameras. May the memory of the victims be a guiding light as we unite to build a safer and more resilient community for the future. I so move, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? Can you move an amendment? I'm not sure that you can, Premier. No. Then you object. Unless it's in the, can I just take some table staff, please? Okay, I'm going to allow you to propose an amendment. Honourable Barnes, if you can please listen clearly.
I propose that the Honourable, this is a very serious issue that the Honourable Barnes raises. And quite frankly, putting that last sentence in on attacking the DA in the city does not help at all. It would be great to remove that sentence and we would absolutely support it. But without the removal, I can't support it.
Sorry,
Fortunately, a precedent is being set because there have been times when we have wanted to support motions and we want to elaborate to say, no, we can't support it because this must be changed or that must be changed, and then we are not allowed. I don't think special privilege should be given just because you are the Premier of the province. Thank you.
It's fine. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Thank you. And the motion will be printed on the order paper. It has been rejected. Thank you very much. I recognize the Honourable Bakubaka Force. Is Honourable Bakubaka Force here? I don't think so.
Thank you, Speaker.
Oh, there you are. You may proceed, Honourable Bakubaka Force.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I rise on behalf of the ANC motion without notice that the House notes with profound sadness in passing of a grade 11 learner, Sikelelo Mona, from Taiwan, Side C. Sikelelo was raped and murdered. The House conveys condolences to her family and friends. We would also like to condemn the gruesome crimes and call on SAPS to work on this case until justice is served. I so move, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? The motion, there is no objection. The motion is agreed to. Thank you. I recognize the Honourable Sayed.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I move without notice that the House wishes to congratulate the Banyana soccer team and its Cape Town-born coach Desiree Ellis on their remarkable achievement in reaching the knockout stages of the tournament. Their passion, determination, and exceptional skill has made our nation proud. As they continue the journey in the tournament, we wish them the best of luck and success in the upcoming games. Their talent and unity are what inspire us all, and we stand firmly behind them, cheering for their continued triumphs on the field. Go Banyana Banyana, make the nation proud. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion? There are no objections. For the record, the motion is agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Murray.
Apologies, Chair. Deputy Speaker, through you, that the House notes with approval the fantastic achievement of Innovation City, founded by Kino Kamies and Stefan Ekberg, in growing their business and creating a space where other businesses in Cape Town's tech ecosystem can grow. Notes further that it's entrepreneurs such as these that are the backbones of any growing economy. That the House further notes that this type of private sector success in creating jobs is exactly what the Growth for Jobs strategy further aims to enable, and that it will take a united effort from all of society, private and public sectors together to put an end to high unemployment. I so move.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion being moved? There are objections. Thank you very much. The motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Hartman.
Deputy Speaker, on a point of clarity, I don't know if I heard correctly, but did the ANC object to the motion?
Yes.
What point of clarity in motions?
No, the ANC rejected the motion. We are moving on to motion number 11. I recognize the Honourable America.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I move without notice that this House condemns the current ongoing taxi strike that has caused significant disruption to the public transportation services. The House takes further note of the withdrawal of Santaco from the taxi task team. This withdrawal has regrettably created a void in the communication channels necessary for resolving grievances and finding common ground. This House further notes that the strike actions have led to the stranding of countless people affected by and affecting their daily lives and causing undue inconvenience. The House further notes and urges all parties involved to prioritize dialogue and cooperation. Constructive engagement and open communication are paramount to finding sustainable solutions that addresses the concerns of the taxi industry while ensuring the seamless mobility of its citizens. I so move.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections? And there are objections. The motion will be printed on the order paper. Honourable America, I recognize you again.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Dagmar, please listen. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I move without notice that this House notes the departure of Advocate Karl Reinecke, who has served with utmost dedication and proficiency in managing the Department of Mobility in acting capacity. Advocate Reinecke's departure marks the end of an era during which he played a pivotal role in ensuring the smooth functioning and coordination of various aspects within the department. Further notes that the House wholeheartedly recognizes and commends Advocate Reinecke for his unwavering commitment as he diligently kept all ships in order, guiding the department through both calm waters and challenging times. And further notes that as Advocate Reinecke ventures into new horizons, this House expresses its sincere appreciation for the invaluable contribution he has made during his tenure and wish him well in his future endeavours. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Fry.
Madam Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I, Honourable Fry, move without notice that this House notes the sadness of the passing of Dan Slay. Dan was known as a historian, writer, and conservationist, born and raised in the West Coast region of the Western Cape. Dan had a keen interest in history and languages and received a PhD in history at the University of Stellenbosch in 1987. His work in researching and writing about the history of the Cape has created a valuable archive and body of knowledge that researchers will still use for many years to come. His book Eelander was published in 2002 and is regarded as one of the quintessential historical novels of the time. It won many local and international prizes and has been translated into Dutch and English. Dan continued researching and writing throughout his life, and he has made an immense contribution to many research projects. Dan Slay made a tremendous impact through his work, and he possessed a range of knowledge that we will probably not see in anyone else again. May he rest in peace.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes the commencement of Women's Month and pays tribute to all of those women in our province and in our country who continue to excel, inspire, and shape our democracy. Notes the sterling achievements of South Africa's women's sports teams, including and especially the South African national netball team and the South African national women's football team, both of which have excelled as they compete in their respective World Cups, and that the House sends its support to these teams as they continue in their respective tournaments. I so move, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion be moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. Honourable members, that concludes the business for the day. The Secretary will now end the meeting. Thank you very much. The House is adjourned.
Thank you very much.